Tyler the Creator is dropping October 28th.
Companies are bad, therefore you should regulate them extra hard and shut down their refineries, and that causes a reduction in supply in your state, and those taxes add on top of that to make you the most expensive state for gasoline in the country. You can't just backpedal and say, oh, well, we made horrible mistakes. You have to double down on oil companies being bad. They must be price gouging you. Pay no attention to all the very specific rules and regulations we set up in order to create this problem. So what Gavin Newsom needs to do, rather than look at Chevron or any of these oil companies, is look dead in the mirror and realize that he's the problem. But that's never going to happen, and Californians are going to pay way more in gas due to these regulations. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like this video, then show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Gavin Newsom's crazy scheme. Till next time.
You a scared little bitch. Tiptoeing around my name, nigga, you're lame. And when I get at you, homie, don't you tell me you was just playing.
Oh, I was just playing, K-Guy. Come on, you know a nigga rock with you, bro.
Stringville, y'all love Kendrick Lamar, correct? As do I.
Just had a great view to see the game through. Drink, they're gonna turn on you one day too.
Now let me say I'm the biggest hater. I hate the way.
What? Phoenix is just because it's so young. I saw him yawn and they were like, like they real platform just long out whiskers.
You see that picture with Travis Kelce, right? They showed the difference of him being with a black woman and being with a white woman. See, when he was a black girl, he had a tight fade, lined up the whole nine, so he looked like one of those, you know, them weirds, white dudes that act black and stuff. He was trying to play like a light-skinned black dude. you still listening and you trying to figure out if you want to follow or not, you know what I'm saying? Just hit me with the follow. Just hit me with the follow, you know what I'm saying? We gonna do a little more stuff, you know what I'm saying? Try to onboard. I'm gonna try to pay it forward, onboard a couple of my other DJ homies on here too, you know what I'm saying? Try to see where I can encourage the Candlestick to get on too, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Yeah, man, gotta run and do a couple other errands. I owed y'all to do this mix because I was gonna go on yesterday when I wasn't able to, so yeah. Yeah, Tiff, you're right, man. They've been waiting. So now they got it. Now I'm gonna be here for a while. So yeah. Yeah. East Texas, what up? Yeah. Chop Star Takeover already, man. D-Lo, man. Yeah. Let me go take. D-Lo, man. Yeah. Let me go take.
If there was a world where DEI was done in a way such that your background or your race or whatever diverse aspects you have is one component of an application, and if you get two students with pretty similar test scores, they're exceeding at least the threshold for acceptance, and some background aspects are weighed a little bit more heavily in one case than the other, do you think that would be an okay world with DEI, or should it just be strictly on like test scores? Yeah.
Two things. One, I do not believe race should factor, you said race, in any way into the application process. I think it's grotesque. I think it's anti-American. It's anti-meritocratic. I'm vehemently opposed to it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all's good wherever you are. Great video today by Peter Boghossian where he debates Destiny. As usual, the timestamps are all in the description. They're going to be debating DEI and should legacy academia be burnt to the ground. A few other topics. Now, Destiny is not somebody that I normally ever agree with, but I will give him one thing. He is one of the leftoids that is willing to put himself out there and debate these topics instead of just shouting and cursing and never debating anybody at all. So I'll give him this much. Let's get into the video.
Legacy academia should be burned to the ground.
Let's
Move.
check in on OG Low. See if we can't interrupt that video shooting to put you
Boards. And they're going to write down their best reason for being on that map.
Just as a point, I would never do this to other people unless I would be willing to do it myself.
Right. Okay, you got 3 guesses. Go ahead.
I think that you wrote that down because the United States needs universities because they're engines of knowledge production, which are key in global competitiveness.
Is that accurate?
Fuck. Yeah, I would say close enough.
That would be your best reason?
Yeah, basically.
It would have been?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. So you,
It would have been a bit broader than that. I would have just said that largely speaking, the type of knowledge that we get from these institutions historically and in the present and going into the future have like been a massive boon to the United States in many ways. But essentially, yeah, what he was saying, yeah.
okay, great. So you go ahead and guess what he would say.
My guess for him was that toxic social and financial incentives have irrecoverably destroyed this institution.
Toxic social and financial incentives.
And no, and it is not better than the reason I have.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, did he have to say that?
Well, that's sometimes. We do that sometimes.
Okay. Second guess is 2024. Academia is a vestige of the past. We could probably build something better today with the knowledge that we've acquired over the past 200 years that far outshines what we have now.
Vestige of the past, we could do better.
That is a good reason, but it is not better than the one I have on the board, nor is it the one I have on the board.
All right, last time.
They're not even producing good information. They don't actually get us far ahead. Most of the advantages that we've seen have actually come from private industry. They might work with academia, but the main driver and generator has been the capitalistic economy and the private ingenuity and inventions that have happened, not the academic institutions. And if anything, they've slowed it down.
Is that?
No, but I would say that's a decent reason, but if I were to run with that, it's actually worse than that, but no.
All right, what is your reason?
Indelible corruption at every or nearly every level of every academic institution in the United States.
All right, we'll have you explain that. Go ahead and put that down. So what do you mean by that?
Well, it's simultaneously a complex and a simple problem. You have academic corruption at multiple levels across multiple spheres. You have them with diversity, equity, inclusion boards. You have them with entire veins of literature. You have them with plagiarism scandals. I mean, the best example of that is Harvard. We could talk about it if you want to. We have it with entire fields that are untethered to reality and utterly corrupt.
Do you understand that? Any questions about that?
No, I think I got it.
Okay. Explain what DEI is and what those are.
So there are diversity, equity, inclusion offices at virtually every, if not every, university in the country. Very recently, again, going off the Harvard case, Claudine Gay was found to plagiarize. Even before the investigation, they did the investigation, they found her innocent. 4 people of the diversity, equity, inclusion, the chief diversity officer was found to have plagiarized her dissertation. The chief Title IX officer was found to have plagiarized his dissertation. None of these people lost their jobs. They're still in those positions. They've obtained their credentials fraudulently. They're still in those positions.
Okay, let's do this claim. If a university has a DEI department, that is a strong signal that it is corrupt. Go. Same? All right. Why is it not a strong signal?
The contrapositive probably isn't true. Like, just because they wouldn't have one doesn't mean they wouldn't be corrupt. And I'm sure we could imagine institutions that have DEI offices that aren't corrupt. But I mean, if he thinks that all of academia is corrupt, then I mean, you could have just had like the first part without the junction, it would still be true. Like, if it's an academic institution, is it corrupt? And I imagine he would still say yes. So adding the DEI thing is going to make it even more of a yes, yeah. But I don't think they're all necessarily corrupt. But I guess we'd have to define corruption, yeah.
Okay.
So if a university does not have a DEI department, it can still be corrupt. If a university has a DEI department, it is a type of ideological influence that corrupts genuine scholarship, open inquiry, free debate, and places a specter on campus of what people can and cannot say. It also is a type of corruption because it enforces equity mandates so that the best people don't get the positions for promotion and tenure, the best people aren't accepted into schools. There's some other exogenous factor that comes in for example, who's matriculating into the university or who become full professor.
Do you agree with that?
Not necessarily. So personally, I don't have like I haven't done a huge deep dive into like what a DEI policy looks like. I think that there are ways to do affirmative action or diversity, equity, and inclusion that could be positive, and I think there are ways to do it that could be not positive. I think that my guess is we would both agree that there are certain backgrounds that you could weigh more heavily than others. That if I've got a kid from an incredibly rich family and a kid that literally grew up like in the streets of the most impoverished neighborhood in the entire country, that if that kid manages to score like 1 point less than this kid, this guy's probably got something more going for him that, like, you know what, even though he might have gotten a little bit worse, like the fact that he came from this background and got to this level is far more impressive than this, and that might be a student that I would want to incorporate more than the other person here. However, the big thing, and I'm guessing Peter would agree with me on this, maybe not, the big thing is how you're weighing those backgrounds and what exactly you're including when you're looking for diversity, equity, and inclusion. One thing that I brought up in my conversation with Jordan Peterson is if you talk to conservatives and liberals, both of them think they have a very diverse group of friends sometimes, but the reality is there's usually very rigid ideological conformity on both sides. So if your form of diversity is just people of different skin colors that are all very rigidly conforming on some other type of identity or some other type of ideology, you're not really doing much for diversity, equity, and inclusion. You just have like a weird reverse racism program that's like promoting unqualified people to positions that they can't maintain. Yeah.
Any comments about that, or I have another claim?
Yeah, I have one comment. I would agree with you about the low-income background. If the missions, it all depends on the mission statement of the university. If the mission statement of the university, if there's something included in that so they make it transparent so that people know, that's different. But it would also say, is merit included in the university? And how do you define merit? How do you disambiguate that? So it would depend on what the explicit goal of the institution is, and then you work back from that to figure out who you should accept. So right now, for example, at Harvard, et cetera, they're claiming it's a meritocracy, but they are systematically discriminating against Asians.
Okay, I want to pose two scenarios. I'm curious if we would agree on both of these. In one world, we'll say both of these worlds are hypothetical, regardless of how much they mirror the current one. In one world, diversity, equity, inclusion exists in such a way that you have a very strict racial quota that you're trying to hit on the school, and merit is taking a very far back seat to trying to maintain that quota. In that world, would you be okay with DEI or against DEI?
I'd be against it.
I think I would agree. I would be against it as well. If there was a world where DEI was done in a way such that your background or your race or whatever diverse aspects you have is one component of an application, and if you get two students with pretty similar test scores, they're exceeding at least the threshold for acceptance, and some background aspects are weighed a little bit more heavily in one case than the other, do you think that would be an okay world with DEI, or should it just be strictly on like test scores? Yeah.
Two things. One, I do not believe race should factor, you said race, in any way into the application process. I think it's grotesque. I think it's anti-American. It's anti-meritocratic. I'm vehemently opposed to it. However, if you want to make the claim that people of different backgrounds, like the claim you made before, someone who's poor, he's worked his way up, I don't think grades should only be taken into account. I don't think SAT scores. I do think that there's a kind of package that we have to look at, but unequivocally race should not be in that package.
And keep in mind when you watch this, Destiny's a multi-millionaire streamer, YouTuber, whatever you want to call him, who knew he was going to be on camera and decided to dress like this, like he's being let out of his cell for a walk in the jail yard. Like, I'm no fashionista, and I'm not here to fashion shame anybody, but come on, bro. I have to agree with Peter Boghossian here, and I'm sure most of the people that watch my channel will agree with the same thing. You can't fix legacy academia at this point, or if you do, it's going to be a very hard task. It's become very ideology dominant. It's an idea factory. It's an ideology mill. They teach you that there is only one way to answer a moral question, the way they want you to answer it. Often when the teachers are teaching, they're teaching you from books that they have written themselves with tests and exams that they have made themselves. The answer that they have selected themselves. There's no more critical thinking. Universities have become ran and taught by activists. They teach you that the only remedy for past discrimination is present discrimination. The denial of your racism is only more evidence of your racism. I mentioned this before. If I was a conspiracy theorist, I would believe that these universities are in service of a foreign enemy state, because it's unbelievable what's happened. The decay and how fast the decay happened to our university system, which the result of which is just mere incompetence, it boggles the mind. I mean, we can all agree that Ivy League universities, there was a point in time, like say, let's use Harvard, for example. The mere fact that you were accepted at Harvard when you applied for a job, people knew that if you were accepted there, that kind of meant that your merit at the time, your merit was very high. Most likely you would have been of a higher IQ than the average member of the population, and you probably would have also been a harder worker. Not the case anymore. Now everything they teach you is about discrimination, victimology, racism. Like, we can't be honest about the black homicide rate in America. Everything has to do with racism. Never mind the fact that over 10,000 blacks are killed every year by gun violence, not by whites, not by police officers, but by other black people. We can't mention that. They teach students the wrong thing. Again, ran by activists. Look at all the trans stuff, the gender ideology stuff. Activists. I think when you run a university and get to the point where meritocracy takes a back seat to the color of your skin and your genitalia, we have a problem. I'll say it again, the universities have become an ideology mill. The goal of them now is just to replicate the ideology to as many people as they can and create more little puppets for the left. That's all they're doing. You're better off these days if you're not going into the STEMs field, or you don't want to be into medicine or something of the sort. You're almost better off just going to a trades college and learning something there. Avoid all the debt. Let's get back to it.
Okay, any comments?
Okay, that's very close to my position. Not saying you moved towards me or I moved towards you, but I largely agree with a lot of that. I guess so. One final question, and I'm not fully sold on this, but I do tend to agree with it. If you could have a university where the average SAT scores are 1550, and that body is 100% white students, and then you could have a second university where the average SAT scores are 1525, 25 points lower, but it's like 25% white, 25% Asian, 25% black, 25% whatever else you want to fill in there. Do you think that the more diverse university that has slightly lower average test scores, do you think there might be some other type of value there that supersedes having the slightly more qualified people, the slightly higher test scored people?
All right.
Yeah, that's a great question. I do. And if one wants to make the claim that those test scores are responsible for producing certain outcomes in terms of successful graduation rates or students who go on to make certain accomplishments, like if we would need that, then the question would be, how would you rate those factors? How would you balance those to weigh them out?
Yeah, this is why I don't talk to Peter. I think we fully agree. I think my guess is in your mind, you're thinking that the merit has gotten so far away from the qualification process that the things that college is supposed to achieve, smarter people, better workers, more productive workers, people that can contribute more to the overall body of what makes this country great, that's actually becoming diminished as a result of DEI. But the pro-DEI argument would be that, like, if you sacrifice a little bit on, like, just a raw test score or something like that, having a more diverse background actually increases all of those other things. My guess is going to be that if your claim, the empirical one of it, actually makes everything a little bit worse, we would both agree. I don't have a principled attachment to diversity. If diversity made everything worse, then I'd say let's just live separately. And I'm thinking you don't have necessarily a principled attachment to lack of diversity. You're just saying that when you sacrifice the merits too much, things get completely messed up. But I think we would largely both agree if the empirical outcome showed one or the other. Would be my guess. Yeah.
Right. So I'm curious about that comment though, and why you don't talk to me? Why? Because we agree too much?
Yeah, because it feels like at the end of the day, I feel like the best types of conversations are ones that are principally loaded, but then they're principally loaded but sensitive to consequential conditions. So yeah, I personally believe that having diverse areas are incredibly important. Like I've looked at some of the podcasts I've done with like Fresh and Fit, where I've got Sneeko, who's like a Haitian immigrant descendant. You've got Myron, who's I think a Sudanese immigrant descendant, and my mom is from Cuba. Like that type of diversity, in my opinion, has only really been done super well in the United States. And I think that's super cool. And I think that's super awesome. You know, you say that you travel to other countries, and that's awesome. But there's like that it's only awesome. It's not awesome because we're diverse. It's awesome because the diversity has produced something awesome. But if that production ends up being a ton of social inequity, a ton of social distrust, a ton of like elevated crime rates, bad test scores, less productive workers, then I would say, okay, well, this isn't working. We have to change it. So you've got like the principle, but then you've got like the consequence that's informing how you enact the principle. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And
I could comment on that, but you want to do another claim?
Yeah, I want to do this general kind of equity value principle. All state universities should represent the general population, racially. So if there's 13% black people in a state, it should be 13% of the student population in the universities, and for every other race. Where would you be? Yeah, right.
I'm probably strongly disagreeing. The only reason I'm not strongly disagreeing, so like the university should represent an even slice of society, but it should be because an even slice of society is able to participate in university at an even level, not because the university is just trying to weight it so that like, yeah. So I would be strongly disagree otherwise, yeah. Yeah.
Same deal.
Yeah, I think so. There are certain assumptions baked into that question, but I think we largely agree.
Okay, let's go back to neutral.
Sure. This just something just like super clicked with me. With the other two guys that you brought up, people complain about being called like a Nazi or a communist and everything all the time. When you and I disagree strongly on these particular topics, and then we give our disagreements, okay, people would probably call you a Nazi. People would call me a progressive, whatever. If we're both willing to give conditions for what would change our mind, there's no reason for people to act that way. Because if I say that like I disagree with this or you agree with this because of this, and you say, okay, well, it's because of these facts. If you just give me these, I'll change my mind on it, right? But then really quick, the guy earlier, I'm not trying to just point out him because a lot of people do this left and right, but the guy earlier is like, nothing would change my mind. Well, okay, well, what do you expect then for people to call you besides a Nazi? It's not like they say anything else is going to matter, right? So I think that being willing to change your mind, not only should you be willing to do that, that should be paired on the other side with, okay, well, if you're willing to change over these facts, this is what I'm going to fight over. That's just a thing that just,
I want to comment on that because I think that's so important. By definition, Nazis don't change their mind or they wouldn't be Nazis.
Sure.
So for us to be called Nazis, if you can create conditions or supply the conditions under which you'd be willing to change your mind, particularly about political issues, it seems to me bizarre to call someone. I mean, that's the kind of thing that people do when they haven't done the intellectual work. They just hurl those epitaphs at you. Okay.
Okay, let's go back to neutral, and we'll do the classic Kendi claim. The only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. Move.
Wow.
Why are you there?
Okay. All right. The only remedy,
and the claim is the
only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. I think that there are ways that you can remedy outcomes of different things to make them more equitable or equal that don't involve present discrimination. But I am very sympathetic towards the idea that, let's say you have a population of black people, let's say you have a population of white people, let's say the population of black people is heavily discriminated against in the past, but through a whole bunch of hard work and a whole bunch of everything else, they managed to build up and achieve the exact same outcomes as the white people. When you look at that society, you go, oh, well, look, you guys caught up. Like, you're good. I can understand this group being like, fuck you. Like, we might have gotten to where you're at, but we had to work so much fucking harder for it. We need some kind of compensation for it. It's not fair to say you want to just help our ends here by giving us some financial compensation when the reason why we were discriminated in the past wasn't a financial one, it was a racial one. So even if we have caught up in this way, there should be some sort of retributive or some sort of restorative justice for us because we were discriminated against this way in the past that makes that particular ill whole, I guess. But I have a strong argument. Like, I'm neutral because I'm sympathetic to both sides there. Yeah.
Can you repeat that back?
I'm not sure that I can because I got lost in a few places along the way, and I'm thinking about it in terms of the racial condition. And so is the idea, the sentiment in that, because certain people I'm so sorry if I get this wrong, that certain groups or races of people have been so discriminated against and they had to work so hard to overcome those that they need some form of redistribution, which means a tax on the top, or they need some form of equity, which means helping them out because they've been so historically disadvantaged, or reparations, something like that, to compensate from past sufferings. Is that the basic idea?
A little bit. Basically, for the grounded example would be, let's say somebody wants to do affirmative action in schools. One guy wants to make it race-based. Another guy says, well, we should go by income of students because that's more fair. The response might be, for the other person, they say, okay, well, in the past, we weren't discriminated against because we were poor. We were discriminated against because of our race. So now I want to be helped because of my race, not helped because I happen to be poor. So even if there's a wealthy black person, he deserves the help too because his family was discriminated against in the past because of his race, not because of his financial status. I don't like the changing the condition up. That would be like the exampled argument, yeah.
So, and the idea is that because there's a history of discrimination, race-based discrimination, those individuals were not able to accumulate wealth. And when you can't accumulate wealth over time, you have more disadvantages as it relates to some groups who could have accumulated wealth.
Potentially, but it has more to do with the idea that even if they have accumulated wealth, the harm in the past was a racial one. So the restoration in the future needs to be a racial one. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm up with you up until that point. Why does it follow if premise, conclusion? If the premise is the harm in the past was a racial one, what's the second premise to make the conclusion that the way to address that has to be a racial?
I don't think you could do it in a clean syllogism, but it would be something like all harms are unique types of harms. Racial harm is a type of harm. In order to alleviate a particular harm, it has to be addressed in a particular way. Racial harm is a unique harm that needs to be addressed in a particular way. And then the conclusion would be the only way to address a racial harm is with a racial cure, I guess, basically, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm having trouble with the validity and the soundness. Two things. So why couldn't another way to address that be equality of opportunity?
Well, it could be. That's why I'm neutral. But I'm saying that, like, if you've been discriminated against your whole life because of your race, and then now 20 years later, they're like, okay, we're going to make whole everybody that was racially discriminated against by paying you out money or something. And then you're like, okay, well, wait, hold on. I managed to accomplish everything I did, but you're not going to pay me money because I got ahead of the average white person? Well, now I feel like I'm getting fucked. Like, I feel like you should pay me money just because of my race, because I had to overcome these things because of my race. You can't make me financially whole now when you were attacking me in the past, not because of my finances, but because of my race, if that makes sense. I don't necessarily think it's the best argument, but that's why I'm on neutral. Yeah. I think actually a really similar type of claim has to do with student loan debt forgiveness. That when Biden wants to forgive student loan debt, he says, well, we want to forgive this debt because it'll help the economy and it'll help everybody with debt. But the people that have paid that debt are looking at it like, wait a second, fuck me. I just paid all my shit off, and now you're going to forgive these motherfuckers? That's bullshit. I had student loan debt, so even if I'm already made whole, it's only fair to compensate me for the past ill that I suffered. So the racial thing would be similar. Like my family, my lineage, all of this is a racial suffering.
Doing well, Samson.
That's bullshit. Fuck them. If you're going to
How you doing, my man?
because we paid in the past in a racial way. That would be like the comparison, I guess, yeah. Okay.
Okay, I understand the claim. Yeah, I understand that.
Okay, let's go back to neutral.
I was in a car wreck and the police didn't show up because nobody was injured.
That's exactly why we developed the Crash Companion app. It's totally free. Download it today. It helps you document information about your wreck and walks you through every step. It's just that easy.
And the way you fix past discrimination is not with present discrimination. And I think we can all agree that there was a time where bad things were done to black people, discriminations were done to women, discriminations were done to gays, but we're not there anymore. If anything, we've overcorrected now, and that's what the left wants. They want an overcorrection because a certain group of people did a certain thing to a certain group of people. Now we have to overcorrect, and we have to, let's say, shit on men or shit on white people. But what we're dealing with today is not a wealth transfer. This is what the left doesn't get a lot of. You're no longer dealing with a transfer of wealth from a group of people who wronged another group of people. 200 years ago, you might have been able to make that argument a little bit. But today, what you're dealing with is you're dealing with not even the descendants of people who did something wrong, giving money to people who were descendants of people who were wrong. It's a transfer of wealth from people who look like people who did a wrong thing in the past to another group of people who resemble people who were wrong. And one of the big problems with this is once you open that box, where does it stop? There's no way in which you could morally organize this transfer of wealth, especially not based on skin color. There were rich black people back then who had slaves. Not every white person that is in America was there during slave time. Not every black person or minority was there. And even if you could make a case, that let's say you can make a case for a young person today that are disadvantaged because of their ancestors that were slavery, how would you even prove that? Because if anything, it could be a very small fraction of a multi-dimensional issue. Black underachievement in America today is not because of slavery in the past. The fact that the black community today, 13% of the community, which let's say mostly men, so let's say 8% of the black community commit a very high percentage of the crimes, over 60%. That is not because of past slavery. The left will want to tell you that, but it's not. And it's not about racism because you can't explain why the Asian community who came into the country as the poorest class in the country are now the wealthiest class in the country. You can't blame white supremacy for that. You cannot say that the system is racist. And to say that today is very defamatory, to say that a system like America is racist, that we have racist culture, that we live in a patriarchal culture, that we live in a sexist culture or rape culture. Look around you. We do not live in a homophobic culture or rape culture or sexist culture. Are there homophobic people, racist people? Sure. And there's always going to be. But the way they're doing it now is they want to weaponize this stuff. They want to weaponize race. They want to weaponize gender in an attempt to claim some sort of suffering because their forebears suffered. The thought that people today, in the wealthiest, freest country that's ever been, society that's ever been, that people are suffering because of their race, gender, sex, or sexual orientation is nonsense. Because listen, the ancestors of white people, let's say 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, and even 19th century, there wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for them either. Okay, you had to scratch your way up to make a living. You died way too far young. Horrible things happened to everybody back then. And if you can claim something like reparations, say if you're a minority, what about the people whose ancestors fought for your freedoms even more? Do they get to access more of the freedoms than the people who came after? Once you open that box, it never stops. You can play the game all day long. The only way to do it is say, hey, listen, everybody right now, equal opportunity for everyone, get at it. Work hard, and you can make it if you make a series of good decisions. Change your bum life, end the life of generations bad for you. Let's get back to it.
So I think one assumption within the only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination is that there are currently disparate outcomes in the U.S. based on race.
Yes, there are.
Yeah. Some of that disparate outcome is due to the legacy of racism, either slavery or Jim Crow or other systemic policies or norms in society.
Yeah.
Very small, but yes.
Okay. Whatever that slice is should be addressed in some way today.
The disparate outcomes of racism in the U.S. today is partly due to the history of racism in the United States, and that needs to be addressed today.
All right.
That's a compound claim, but okay.
And where would you be for that?
I'd be on like slightly agree.
Go ahead. Where would you be? Okay. Why are you there?
Yeah, so I don't think it needs to be addressed, but if it does need to be addressed, it would need to be addressed in terms of making sure that it doesn't happen again. And maybe that violates the integrity of the question.
Just why are you there?
I slightly agree that we have to do things because we've got massive racial differences in outcomes in the United States. Personally, I don't believe that a large part of that is due to these inbuilt genetic differences. So it must be due to some sort of environmental difference in the past. But I think that when people address these things, I think you have to be careful because people will blame things today on racism instead of what we're really getting, which is like the echoes of racism. So for instance, if you tell a black family and a white family, you tell the black family, I want you to feed lead paint chips to your child, when they grow up, and you tell the white family, I want you to raise your child in the best way and do all the best things for them. When these two people grow up, if the black person murders somebody and is sent to jail, is that racism? A lot of people on the left would say, well, that is racism because of his background. And a lot of people on the right will say, well, that's not racism. He murdered somebody. This is the fair trade-off. That's the punishment you get for doing so. So I think that when people analyze racist stuff in the past, I think it's really good to keep that in mind. But it can't be this perpetual cycle of we're infinitely racist and everything that's happening today is due to racism. No, not really. Like how people are acting in the system might have been influenced by past racism, but that doesn't mean that we can adapt to all of that and make excuses for everybody. Like, yeah, it has to be, it's a complicated topic, but yeah.
All right, last claim. Go back to neutral. If everyone judged people not on the color of their skin, but on the content of their character, the legacy of racism in the United States would be addressed within the next 50 years. Go.
I'm thinking... So I'm thinking I could go either way on this. My tendency is to want to go to the strongly agree, but I'm concerned that there may be certain genetic components among people whose ancestors were subject to certain evolutionary conditions that enable them to adapt to certain environments better, although that word is problematic, than others. But the way the question was framed, it said, can kind of address those in the past. I think largely yes, but my guess is we would still see radical disparities, and people would then point to those disparities and say, hey, look, everybody is now colorblind, but we still see the disparities. So being colorblind didn't solve the disparate outcomes.
Okay.
You just gave that would be my exact answer. Yeah. That I think you have to be really sensitive to starting conditions, and some of those might include like actual racist or racial policies or whatever. And if you eliminate that sensitivity entirely, then you might actually create an over-exaggeration of how horrible a particular group of people are, right? If I have 10 of race X and 10 of race Y, and I starve 10 of race X for 3 days, and I give 10 of race Y the healthiest, best diet and training ever, and then I race these people and I say, well, let's not worry about their backgrounds. Well, I'm going to think these people are absolutely fucking worthless. How are they doing so horribly compared to these people? It's like, okay, well, we need to have a sensitivity to, and when I'm saying sensitivity, I just mean like we're measuring or we're being aware of like a particular thing that's going to impact the outcomes of these people. So if it is the case that black people and white people and Chinese people and whatever else in the United States were subject to far different environmental conditions in the past, well, if we just treat everybody exactly the same and we're just colorblind, or we're going to look at like, we're going to look like black people in the U.S. and be like, Jesus Christ, why do you guys kill each other so much? It must be a super genetic thing. You all have the warrior gene. It's going to be like a dramatically overestimated. Whereas if we're more sensitive to the past, we're like, okay, well, we've got things relating to generational wealth, the cities that you live in, the policing outcomes, and the civil rights, and all of these different things are impacting it. It's like, okay, well, now we can temper our understanding a bit more. Not to make excuses for ultimately what happens at the end of the line, like you can't kill somebody because your parents were living under Jim Crow, but like to be aware that like the reason why these people are experiencing such disparate outcomes isn't just 100% like a genetic difference or something between two different racial groups of people, basically. Yeah.
Any comments?
Yeah, my I don't know if I have an issue with that, but my thought on that was if you were truly colorblind and the society were truly meritocratic, then you would see what we see in functioning capitalist societies. Those who have the highest IQs tend to have the highest incomes. But I'm thinking of Ashkenazi Jews here, but you couldn't identify them as Ashkenazi Jews because you were colorblind. And again, I'm just going with the spirit of the question.
Well, I mean, if you hardcore go with the spirit of the prompt and you say you can never see skin color ever, then that would eliminate every single racial issue, sure. Yeah, I guess when I was thinking colorblind, I was thinking like just ignoring all the conditions of the past and all of that, and you just kind of like treat everybody's equal. But obviously, realistically, people are going to notice like, Jesus Christ, like these people are real smart, these people are real dumb, and they all kill each other. What the fuck is going on? But if you're saying that like that nobody ever has that racial component ever, and they're just like, well, here's a group of people who do this, here's a group of people who do that, but the groups of people are never delineated by race, then technically, I guess I would agree. Yeah, depends on how you look at it. Yeah. But realistically, obviously, I don't think you can ever have a group of people that are completely ignorant to any type of, physical appearance like that,
Yeah. I'm wondering about this more fundamental claim about disparate outcomes.
I think a lot of the debates that they do on the YouTube should be like this: one mic for two people so that they can clearly flesh out their thought, whether you agree with them or not. This is a much nicer thing to look at or listen to, I should say, than two sides yelling at each other. Or what it is 99% of the time, one side just yelling and shouting, trying to stop the other side from talking. We know what side that is. So I'm going to give Destiny a little bit of respect here, even though I disagree with his point of views. The guy's out here having the conversation, and that's what we need to do. And it makes for good content. I enjoy watching this. If you guys enjoy it too, by the way, smash that thumbs up button for your boy. Consider subscribing to the channel to help it grow. Let's get back to it.
In an ideal society, there should be virtually no difference of outcomes between racial groups. Go. Okay, why are you there?
I think that in a perfect society where everybody has the ability to do everything they want and there aren't these pressures or past related to race, my guess would be that we'd see a pretty even slice of everybody in different jobs and different career paths and different educational levels and everything. The only reason I'm on agree instead of strongly agree is because there might be some genetic component where for different groups of people, depending on, I don't know how long you would have to be apart for some type of like educational or career phenotype to emerge where like, well, these people are just a little bit more likely to be interested in this and these people are a little bit more likely to be interested in that. That might like shift it a little bit, but I don't think it would shift it so much that you have like the Jew banker phenotype and like the black athlete phenotype. Like you might see a higher percentage of them doing sports and a higher percentage of these people like doing this type of job, but I don't think it would be as crazy as it is now. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think?
In an ideal, I think this is really important. If my reasoning is an error, let me know. In an ideal society, there should be. That's the linchpin of the whole question. Should be. So, for example, we know that Ashkenazi Jews have won Nobel Prizes radically disproportionate, for example, basically to anybody from 2% of the population. So when you say in an ideal society should be, so then we're going to have to create some mechanism to make sure that doesn't emerge. You're going to have a kind of Harrison Bergeron situation where we punish the people from rising at the top, maybe, and you want to make the claim in addition to helping the people at the bottom, the assumption there is that somehow humans stack linearly and that, 50,000 of a certain person will make one Ashkenazi Jew who's a Nobel Prize winner. So there are differences among groups, and I didn't say race, but there are differences among groups. And so when you say should be, it's too much like you need some kind of totalitarian top-down control to punish people from achievement.
Any comments or questions?
Fuck yeah. I think we would agree it's coming down to a disagreement on what the word should means here, maybe. Like, maybe I'm thinking more would be versus should be, but like, yeah, well, because I'm thinking that like, because here's what I'm thinking. Let's say you have a set of three identical triplets, okay? If you feed them all the same food, you train them all the same way, they should be the exact same in terms of like racing and whatever other competitive thing. But when I say should be there, I don't mean like they should be, as in like if this guy does better, we're gonna make him worse. When I say should be, what I mean is they would be if you treated them all exactly the same. That's what I look at when I think of like the racial stuff. I would think that society would be a lot more equitably cut up. I hate that fucking word equitable. Yeah. It would be a lot more equally cut up in terms of like 10% of every demographic would do this, and 10% of every demographic would do that, blah, 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 blah. I think it would look like that. But I don't agree with the should be, where it's like, well, if all these Ashkenazi Jews, are outperforming all of these, X race of people, well, X race of people should just be awarded prizes because to make them feel better, and maybe don't give the Jews that many prizes because fuck them. Yeah. So I wouldn't agree with the should be, like the Harrison Berger on, like, let's put the helmets on them and take them down. When I say should be, I mean, like, if we treat everybody in a particular way and remove all these past issues, they should all perform more similar than they are now. When I say should, I mean would, I guess, yeah. So maybe we agree, but it's just a different interpretation of that word, yeah.
All right, I'll give you the last word. Any questions or comments?
So I want to comment on, I had Heather McDonald on the show, and I asked her why people were so willing to throw away the meritocracy, for example, in, well, basically everything. And she said something that was so interesting to me. She said, because people don't understand the degree of the disparities. If they only understood how disparate, for example, SAT scores were, they would not be willing to do that. I want to hit on a few things that I think are important, but...
We're out of time.
What?
We're out of time.
We're out of time, okay?
All right. Last word, any comments?
I think I would largely agree with that. The issue doesn't necessarily come from the disparities. It's like, is it race-based? That's always like the really hot question. But one thing that I push back against a lot is if you're going to deal with a particular thing, you have to be aware of the realities in that thing. So for instance, I'm a huge capitalist, but I like a lot of redistributive policy when it comes to welfare. But you have to understand that if you do these policies, they're gonna affect these markets in this way, and you can't turn a blind eye to that. You have to be aware of that. When it comes to people, and it sucks, and it might not feel good to think about it, but IQ, or IQ tracking G, is an unfathomably important metric in a person's life. Arguably one of the most important controlling mechanisms for if you could endow a child at birth with $1 million or 145 IQ, a lot of the time, 145 IQ might outperform that $1 million. It's just such an important metric, or G in general. And the idea of when we say a meritocracy, there are some things that we can get rid of that wouldn't affect this fucking country at all. We license for so much shit, okay? I'm not fully convinced that if you get rid of licensing for hairdressers, that it's going to destroy haircuts across the country. But when you start digging into highly G-loaded things, so like SAT scores or other types of measurements that are getting at something a little bit more fundamental or more raw, you are stepping into very dangerous territory. And the only reason you can do that is, I don't know, I'm going to very cautiously agree with your guest because I don't know anything about our political positions, but it's because you don't realize how immense the difference would be between a person with 110 IQ and a person with 85 IQ. You're in very, very, very different worlds. Not such a world that the 85 IQ person needs to be thrown into a meat grinder and cut up, but you're in such a world that when college education, to the opposite of what conservatives believe, college education is one of the biggest drivers of income inequality because once you start earning money as a college grad, you're dramatically outpacing these people. Something has to be done where we can't just pretend that people that are only capable of working some type of job can magically, learn to code and become software designers or developers. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay.
Great. We'll end it there. Thank you. Feel free to,
what do you think of this?
I think it's a fun exercise, yeah.
Yeah, I like doing it with you. I think, we agree on so much, which was kind of the problem.
Yeah, I like grabbing ordinary people outside of the political world because it's interesting. Sometimes it's interesting to see how knowledgeable people are or how intractable some people are. Like the one guy here, I hope he was a random guy. Well, I guess he was a fan of yours.
Was he?
When I did the Ukraine-Russia thing, because he said he'd watched your videos before. But I was surprised at like the level of understanding that he had for some of the things we were talking about for climate change and everything. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I would expect only like an online person to know this. Maybe I'm generalizing a bit, but then also seeing other people who are like, you know, like I would never change my opinion on this. There's no way. And it's also really good because it illustrates sometimes the total different realities that some people live in. And I thought about this as I'm writing here. I'm thinking like, okay, well, why wouldn't Donald Trump be a president? Okay, well, how would I evaluate him? Well, I'm thinking policies. I'm thinking like actions around the world, blah, blah, blah. And I'm trying to think of all these things, and then I'm nowhere near it. This guy's like, because Biden's fucking senile. And I'm like, fuck me. Yeah, fuck. What was I thinking? Yeah, of course. Right? And then much the same, if I was a conservative, I might be across from a liberal, and I might do all these things, and they might have, because Trump is a fucking fascist. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Yeah, I was going to think of that. Yeah, so I think it's good to show the totally different, not just the different thoughts, but the different thought processes of different people.
Yeah, and that's the epistemological part of it. So I hope you have fun.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, thanks again, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
That'll be it for this video. Hope you all enjoyed it. I know most of you like this debate format. I thought this was great. I like the one mic for two people issue, as I mentioned earlier. If this is not your first time watching the channel, you're still here at this point and you're not yet subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel. Help it grow. Leave a thumbs up on the video. That really helps me out. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.
fam. How you doing? Excuse me. Oh my gosh.
You are not excused.
No! My God. My heart.
Subversion is the term, if you look in a dictionary or criminal code to that matter, usually is explained as a part of activity to destroy things like religion, government system, political, economical system of a country. And usually it's linked to espionage and such romantic things as blowing up bridges, sidetracking trains, cloak and dagger activity in Hollywood style. What I'm going to talk about now has absolutely nothing to do with the cliche of espionage or KGB activity of collecting information. So the greatest mistake or misconception, I think, is that whenever we are talking about KGB, for some strange reason, starting from Hollywood movie makers to professors of political science and quote-unquote experts on Soviet affairs, or Kremlinologists as they call themselves, they think that the most desirable thing for Andropov and the whole KGB is to steal blueprints of some supersonic jet, bring it back to Soviet Union and sell it to the Soviet military-industrial complex. It's only partly true. If we take the whole time, money, and manpower that the Soviet Union and KGB in particular spends outside of USSR border, we will discover, of course there are no official statistics unlike with CIA or FBI, that the espionage as such occupies only 10 to 15.
Yeah, I could hear them from our room.
Losing their damn minds out there smoking on that opium.
Here.
Huh.
Mm-mm.
Well, whatever. I think there's a demon in here, y'all.
Who?
So we just gonna play the Bible up in here. Try to get rid of this demon.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, whatever.
They love the Bible, and it's the greatest book, and they swear on it, but it has these things that are like comically stupid.
I don't know how I missed this podcast until now. It's Jordan Peterson on Bill Maher's Club Random podcast. I have to say, I've actually met Bill Maher, and he's actually a nice guy in person, but he's obviously also one of the most infamous mockers of Christianity. I like the direction that this conversation goes, and the reason I'm featuring it here is because I think that there's something inside of Jordan Peterson's tone, approach, and continued earnestness in the face of someone mocking you that is noteworthy. Also, the actual implications and things that he unpacks within the text, I think is cool as well. It's Jordan Peterson, it's Bill Maher on Club Random Podcast. Let's do it.
They love the Bible, and it's the greatest book, and they swear on it, but it has these things that are like comically stupid and corrupt. I mean, God is so corrupt in the Bible. I mean, you can bargain, humans. You know, he does things that are so capricious and cruel and, you know, petty. I mean, he's very Trumpian.
Well,
you know?
I've been walking. I released a series started to release it yesterday on YouTube on the story of Exodus, and it's a 16-part series, 32 hours on the book of Exodus. Yeah, I had 9 people come down, and I've been walking through the biblical corpus. That was actually something I wanted to talk to you today about.
I love it.
Yeah, well,
I love it that you're a real professor.
So,
you're like a personality and a TV guy and like a great voice, but you're the real deal. You're an academic.
So there's a very interesting idea that lurks behind the notion that you can establish a covenant with God, and you can tell me what you make of this. It's like it's a reflection of the fact that human beings bargain with fate all the time. We bargain with the future all the time. So and here's how we do it. So and this is what you teach your kids. You teach your kids that if you forego immediate gratification, so you give it up, sacrifice it, because that's a sacrifice, that the future will be better as a consequence. Well, that's okay. It's a contractual relate. Well, that's what's trying. Right. That's the thing that's so interesting is that it actually will.
If you don't have that piece of cake tonight, you'll be healthier tomorrow.
Right. And if you don't go off and play with your friends immediately after school, but play the piano for 20 minutes, then in 10 years when you're actually a musician, all sorts of but it's this is something that's very uniquely human, because human beings have learned that if we give up, there are certain forms of immediate gratification. If we give them up, which means we offer them up, it's a sacrificial offering, then we can make a covenant, a bargain with the future, right?
Oh.
That's what's being reflected in those stories where the notion is that you can bargain with God.
Well, I mean, the Bible is so well known, even by people who haven't read it. And by the way, a lot of the people who put their hand on it and love it so much have never read it. Certainly not all the way through. It's a big, long book.
Yes, it is.
It's full of mostly nonsense. Once in a while, it stumbles upon wisdom. I mean, it's. But come on, you got to give these people their due. I mean, it was written as, first of all, it's an anthology.
I'm going to tell you a story.
Okay. A
Tell
Bible
me what
story?
you think about Bible story. This is Jordan Peterson's
I love your Bible stories.
Okay, this is a Bible story. So I've been looking at the story of Jonah.
Yeah.
And this is a story that you'll appreciate. So here's what happens to Jonah. He's just minding his own business. And then the voice of God comes to him, and the voice says, you have to go to this city, Nineveh, because everybody in Nineveh is like, they've strayed off the path, and I'm thinking about wiping them out. But you could maybe go there and tell them like how foolish they are, and they'll straighten up, and then I won't have to destroy the city. And Jonah thinks, there's no damn way I'm going to do that. First of all, Nineveh is a city of his enemies.
Babylonia.
It's a city that he's not allied with, and so he thinks, well, you guys can go to hell in a handbasket, and if God wipes you out, that's perfectly fine with me.
Right.
And then he also thinks, like any wise man would, it's like, I see this is the task you have for me. It's like, there's 150,000 people there. I'm a foreigner. I'm going to go there and tell them how they're misbehaving, and that's going to work out well for me. So he thinks, to hell with that, like any sensible person would. And he doesn't say what he has to say.
He did the same thing yesterday.
Right.
I didn't say hey to him.
So then he hops on the boat and gets the hell out of there. Well, turns out that God's not very happy if you're informed that you have something to say and then you don't say it. So the storms come and the waves rise, and now the ship's in danger. Okay, so what does that mean?
You got in the whale.
Yes, that's right. It means that if you don't say what you have to say when you're called upon to say it, you'll put the whole damn ship at risk. Now, the soldiers figure this out, or the sailors, they figure out, there must be someone on the boat that, like, isn't right with God, and that's why we're in danger of being swamped. So they will go and ask everybody, and Jonah, to his credit, says, yeah, it's me. You know, I had, the voice of conscience made itself manifest to me. I had a task to do. I refused it. I'm screwing things up. And the sailors actually try to save him, but it doesn't work, so they throw him overboard. Now you think, okay, Jonah's got what he deserves because he shut the hell up when he had something to say, and now he's going to die. And you think, that's pretty damn rough. And partly what that means is, if you hold your tongue when you have something to say, then you're going to put the ship at risk, and you'll be lucky if you don't die. All right, but that's not enough. That's not nearly enough, because that isn't all that happens if you don't say what you're called upon to say. So the next thing that happens is Jonah's drowning away. That's about as bad as it gets. And then this creature from hell itself comes up from the bottom of the abyss and takes him down. And so now he's in hell for 3 days. And so that's the next part of the story, which is that if you're called upon to say what you have to say and you refuse it, like, you'll end up in a place where you wish you were dead.
The whale?
That's the whale.
Oh, okay.
But it's the same thing. Like, in the story, the whale is described as hell. It's exactly the same idea.
In Religulous, the guy who was arguing with me, and he said, he was this point was very important to him. He said, the Bible does not say whale. It says big fish. Okay, well, now it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, well, it's the thing. Well, what it is, it's a representation of the thing that dwells in the dark.
It's so interesting that you see the lessons in these, and I just always read these things as like super stupid from the Bronze Age, you know, and obviously they were telling people something. I mean, whoever wrote this had a message in mind.
Well, they were trying to figure out by telling stories how the state itself got corrupted. And this is one of those stories. So the story is, here's how the state gets corrupted. You're called upon to tell your fellow man, enemy or not, when they're not behaving properly. When your conscience tells you to do that, you're called upon to do that. If you don't do that, the whole ship will start to rock.
But do you think the ancients who were reading this at the time, and they read the story about he gets swallowed by the big fish or the whale, you think they got this message? They were like, yeah, but what this really means is when you're called upon, excuse me, I'm talking, when you're called upon, then you step up and do it.
No, I would say it's a step. It's a dreamlike step in the developing of understanding. So before you fully understand something, you can represent it in a story. Right? It's kind of halfway. A kid starts to understand something by acting it out.
They may. I mean, they may have gotten it, or they may have gotten it on an unconscious level, right?
They got it at an implicit level, which is what you.
Level.
Yeah, well, that's what you get when you watch a story. Is you get it at an implicit level, and it's actually very powerful, right? I mean, when people go to movies, most of the time, most people when they go to movies don't sit around afterwards and discuss what the movie meant. They just enjoy the story. But that doesn't mean they didn't learn anything. It just means they don't reflect on what they learned. Now, the people who came up with these stories, they were telling the stories because the stories were really interesting. But the deeper question is, well, why the hell was that story interesting? And why was it remembered? And so what happens to Jonah is that he's in the whale for 3 days, and then he thinks, now I'm in hell. Okay, I'm gonna repent of my inadequacy. I'm willing to say what I have to say. So the whale spits him up on the beach. Then he goes to Nineveh, and he tells everybody what the hell they're doing wrong, and God decides to spare the city. And so for me, this story encapsulates...
It's a win-win.
Well, it's a little hard on Jonah. You know,
well, he
there's the whole hell thing. He does. He lived. That's right. It was a rebirth story.
Did he relocate to Nineveh?
No, it's just a pilgrimage to Nineveh.
Oh, okay. So he did. Okay.
But he goes there, and then the city is in fact saved. But it's perfect, Bill, because what it shows, and I know you know this because you wouldn't speak the way you speak, and this is true of comedians in general. You know that you have a moral obligation, like a deep and profound moral obligation.
I do.
To say what you have to say.
I do really respect Jordan Peterson staying earnest in the midst of someone mocking you and the thing that you're trying to communicate to them, to your face. He never takes the bait and engages in sort of this, let's, mock each other back and forth. He keeps it classy where Bill Maher does not. But really, this idea that Bill Maher is clearly consumed with is basically what C.S. Lewis calls chronological snobbery. It's the idea that if something is ancient, it must be foolish. That if something was, a Bronze Age, if it came out of the Bronze Age, then it must be as stupid as the technology that came out of the Bronze Age. Obviously, this approach is fallacious at a number of different levels, but I want to kind of pivot now in this video to a snippet of a conversation that I recently had with Peter J. Williams of Tyndale House, and he also, you might recognize him from the Unbelievable podcast. He had a debate a few years back with Bart Ehrman. He answered a question that I asked him about people just like Bill Maher with this type of tone around the Bible and how we should respond to people who want to just dismiss the entire Bible with the wave of a hand. I thought that his response here was actually sort of helpful. So this full podcast is going to be coming out in the near future, but here is a small snippet that I hope will help us land the plane of this video. Enjoy. On the internet, there's, different conspiracy theories and myths and things that emerge that people basically buy into and live out of. And so for someone who would kind of say, yeah, that's essentially what the Bible is en masse, is it's like this sort of supernaturally supercharged history that, is appealing because it gives some, broad explanations of life on this planet, and it has these like sort of, Marvel-esque elements to it that appeal to people. And so that explains everything. How would you respond to that type of
Yeah,
objection?
so I want to know what sort of person is saying this. So you can get a very lazy thinker version of that. So the person doesn't even bother picking up the Bible. I mean, the Bible takes about 70 hours to read. It's not that long. And they're just sort of like folding their arms and say, well, you go and do some work. And with that person, I just say, oh, no, I'm too busy. I'm not going to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as in, if you want to stay in your ignorance, just do. I mean, there might be consequences for that, like if you find out you're wrong. But I think the sort of lazy version, well, it all could have just made up, I haven't read any of it. That is, I wouldn't engage too far. I mean, I do think that, again, Jesus set an example in terms of telling people not to engage if people are not showing any interest. Even talk about disciples shaking dust off their feet when they leave particular places. So I would say no. I want someone to be serious. I am really happy to put in time into a serious conversation. I expect someone else to put in time as well. That's how humans should work together and be transformed. Now, if someone's more serious and they're looking at the great thing is we can talk detail. And so, I mean, I don't know which details we talk about. It depends which they want to take that.
She's the accounting department.
Okay.
Summary and annual report for Sunshine House in Hilton Belleville. Summary annual report for the Sunshine House Inc. Health and Welfare.
and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we got to talk about Kamala Harris going on Fox News, being interviewed by Bret Baier, and rage quitting the interview, completely falling apart in each and every question because it was absolutely magical in every possible way. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
And remind you that on Wednesday, October 23rd, I will be live in person in Lower Manhattan debating Joshua Eagle on the idea that libertarians should vote for Kamala Harris over any other candidate in this election. It's going to be an absolutely wonderful event. It's free to attend. Just click the registration link in the top of this description, and please, I hope to see you there if you can make it. So right off the top, I want to point out a couple of things. First and foremost, for some reason, the evil orange man, Donald Trump, was very upset that Fox News was providing Kamala Harris a platform, but in reality, having her do at least one contested interview prior to the election is a good thing, and she completely fell apart in this regard. So, evil orange man, you were definitely wrong in this particular case. Secondly, I will also point out that the reason why Kamala Harris wants to do a Fox News interview is because it turns out that of all the cable news agencies, the one viewed most by independents happens to be Fox News. The Democratic talking points, Democrat Party state media at MSNBC and CNN is not pulling in anybody but people who are already voting for Kamala. So all of these interviews that she has done over there haven't really moved the needle for her. So both people want to do this interview, and it's good that both people are doing this interview, especially since Kamala completely fell apart.
How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but just a number. Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have an
rough estimate of
system
6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get you the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And so already, and I mean already, Kamala Harris is completely done with this question. It was as follows: how many illegals has your administration paroled into this nation? Is it 1 million, 2 million, 6 million? Can you put a number on what you've done? And Kamala Harris is immediately trying to pivot to a talking point we've heard a million times, which is the evil orange man, because he's evil and orange, decided to kill a bipartisan border bill because he's such an evil, bad orange man. Now, of course, this bill was brought up 3.5 years into the presidency and vice presidency of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, and the fact of the matter is, prior to that, they pretended like the border wasn't a problem. They pretended that the border was secure, and they said there was no issue at all whatsoever. And in reality, the reason why they did that is because it was their planned policies from the campaigns to say that we're going to let in all these people as long as they say that they're claiming asylum. We have the clip of Joe Biden saying, let them surge to the border.
I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
That is exactly what he did when he came into office, and we have Kamala Harris saying that we should decriminalize border crossings.
Let me just be very clear. We have to have a secure border, but I am in favor of saying that we're not going to treat people who are undocumented and cross the border as criminals. That's correct. That is correct.
And guess what? Both of those policies were implemented as they came into office. These illegals were paroled into this country. We all understand that, and that's exactly what they ran on. That's exactly what they did. So it's 100% their fault.
When you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
So right here, Bret Baier asked one of the most crucial questions that can be asked related to him.
So I gotta lose some weight, old boy, so you can do it. What do you miss the most about home? You don't have a nice bed yet? No, I do. I just love home.
I don't know about that, Luz. Look, the whole city's going on. Every fucking business, everything. People don't know what birthday ball. We all know.
Obviously,
See, man, it's all the same. Harrison's corrupt out there.
Look, we ain't get shit together since some idiot converted.
Immigration policy, and this is the removal of one of the most intelligent immigration policies that the Trump administration has put in. And by the way, I'm not exaggerating by this, but one of the most intelligent immigration policies put in by an administration in decades in this country, which is, of course, remain in Mexico. Because again, let me run this down for you guys really quickly. You have a bunch of different people that are coming in from various countries and crossing the U.S.-Mexico border. When they get here, they claim asylum in this nation. And Remain in Mexico said, listen, you can claim asylum here. Obviously, that is allowed, but you have to claim asylum, which is not economic migration. It is for fear of safety in each and every country along your journey to the United States of America. And this just makes perfect sense. It is the best way to cut down on asylum fraud. And this, of course, was removed by Joe Biden, by Kamala Harris, because they determined it to be evil white racism. So all of these different people were able to come and defraud our asylum system, clog it up, and it's been an unmitigated disaster.
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the CHIPS and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding, please? But you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they didn't bring up that bill.
I'm in the middle of responding to the point you're raising, and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress.
So look, I will link the full interview in the description of this video so you guys can check it out for yourself. But as you can see, the strategy for Kamala Harris is to regurgitate her talking points over and over again, filibuster throughout the course of time of the interview in order to avoid answering difficult questions. And by the way, this is her strategy throughout all of her interviews. The difference is that this is the first interview that she's done where anybody wants to press her on any single issue. Every other interview that she's done has been an ass-kissing ceremony, but this time, Brett Baier of Fox News is just not having it. So he's trying to cut her off, he's trying to get her to shut up and actually answer the question, and Kamala Harris has nothing but her stupid-ass talking points, and this is laid bare for everybody out there in the audience to actually see. Now, Brett Baier pushes back even further on her. He points out that that immigration bill that they offered to Congress when they first came into office is nonsensical.
Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it.
And she points out that this bipartisan bill that she talks about, that supposedly the evil orange man killed, was voted down in part by 6 Democratic senators.
These are the 6 Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise. Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill.
So finally, we actually see a Democrat confronted in an interview, early on in an interview, with the people that are killed by illegal immigrants paroled into this country by the Biden-Harris administration. And obviously, Kamala Harris doesn't want to talk about it. She's like, oh, it's so sad or whatever. But here's the thing. This bipartisan bill, this magical bill that wasn't supported by even all the Democrats, Trump killed it because he's an evil orange man. And honestly, we could have had 9 months of protection. But Brett Baer points out yet again that these are people that were let in very early on into the Biden-Harris administration when Kamala Harris was named the border czar.
This is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There's no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election. Because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration.
So their deaths are based on policy that, of course, the Biden-Harris administration ended up backing up full force.
I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Ungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I'm so sorry for her loss. Sincerely. But let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions.
So right there we see a clip of a family member of Jocelyn who was killed by somebody 3 weeks after they were paroled into this country by the Kamala Harris and Joseph R. Biden administration, by the border czar. And you could see by Kamala's body language, by her facial expression, that she just got hit by a train metaphorically, which is Brett Baer bringing the facts, bringing them up to her face. And obviously she has no retort for this. And by the way, I see a lot of people on the left try to dismiss this and say, oh, well, people get murdered all the time in the United States of America. And yes, that is true. We have a lot of citizens in the United States of America who commit murders. But the thing is, they're citizens. And if there is policy, by the way, that ended up leading to them committing a murder, like bail reform or something like that, where we had a chance to get them off the street, and we didn't, I talk about those specific cases. That being said, again, those people are already baked into the cake of the United States of America. These are people, these murderers, that should have been kept out of the country, should have been detained by our federal government, that the Harris-Biden administration let into the country, paroled into the country. So these are preventable murders from non-citizens based on policies that these people advocate for. And again, I will point out, they didn't give a damn. They said it was no crisis at all whatsoever, up until it became politically inconvenient for them 3.5 years into the Biden presidency. So they will allow this to happen again. If they get elected, she's not going to push for border security. What she's going to do is double down on these policies, because that will prove that they can ignore the border for 3.5 years, pretend they care about it in the last 6 months right before the election, and then all of a sudden, once they win, they can drop the issue once again and let millions upon millions of more people flood into our nation.
Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer
in all fairness, I told you, I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
So Bret Baier asked one of the more crucial questions, which is, she had been saying that the border is secure, everything's perfectly fine. So when did it switch? When did it all of a sudden become a crisis? Because you in the Democratic Party, and you specifically, Kamala Harris, were denying that it was a crisis.
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure you probably, I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist. They will tell you, we need more judges.
So you could just hear it in her voice. You can hear it breaking, you can hear it cracking, you can hear the nerves, the low talking, and all of that. You also can see the expression on her face that this was a horrible mistake doing this Fox News interview, because for whatever reason, she thought she was going to get the kid gloves treatment, or that she was going to be able to handle this, despite the fact that all of the evidence would show us the exact opposite. I mean, there's a reason why Kamala Harris refused to do an interview for 6 weeks after stealing the Democratic nomination from Joe Biden. And when she started doing interviews, they were all friendly interviews that she bombed, by the way, that she performed terribly in, by the way. And now that she's got her first combative interview 20 some odd days before the election, she completely crumbles under pressure. She completely embarrasses herself, and she can't handle basic questions that she should have been ready for about the border, about her policies, and about the fact that she's flip-flopped on all of her positions.
But you frequently talked to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support. They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
So Brett ends up trying to wrap up the immigration topic by saying that you talked about the Border Patrol Union supporting this particular bill. Obviously, they're going to support a bill, by the way, that ends up leading to the hiring of 1,500 new union members. So there's no surprise that they ended up supporting that. But then he brings up the fact that this very same union actually is endorsing the evil orange man, Donald Trump. And Kamala Harris, again, listen to the tone of voice, listen to the inflection. Look at her nodding her head no when she says that, oh, I get it. She is totally in a panic right here. Normally, the way these interviews go is that Kamala Harris gets asked a question and she says, I grew up middle class. I'm not like the evil orange man who had money. I grew up middle class. And, you know, my parents, when I was in high school, my mama, she ended up buying a home. And, you know, it's very important to buy a home. So here's why I'm going to introduce this policy that will actually increase the price of housing. That's normally how these interviews go, but Bret Baier is obviously not having it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
So again, the questions from Bret Baier and the non-answers tell the whole story right here. So Bret Baier asked her about the fact that when she was running for president in 2019, which, by the way, is the same area where she advocated for decriminalizing border crossings, which she gets asked about later on, and then she says, oh, I'm not in favor of that, I'm not in favor of that, I'm not in favor of that, even though that's exactly what they did, essentially, when she was put in charge of the border. But this particular question about the driver's license is obviously a setup, because Tim Walz ended up endorsing and signing into law all of these various policies, and Kamala Harris is not prepared for this.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law. And that is exactly what we will do.
This is the amazing thing about being a Democratic candidate, is that basic questions about this, basic standards of vetting your VP, they do not apply to them in normal circumstances. So when they do, she ends up completely falling apart. And then she says, oh, I'm going to follow the law. I'm going to follow the law. But we all know that the president can use prosecutorial discretion when it comes to certain laws. And this is exactly what the Biden administration did. And by the way, what the Trump administration did when they decided to go harder on immigration laws versus the softer approach of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So, are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you got to
happened
take
during
responsible for what
his
happened in your
presidency.
So
administration.
I love this. They end up bringing up the evil orange man's ad about how Kamala Harris is for they, them, and Trump is for you. And that's a reference to the fact that Kamala Harris wants the taxpayer to fund gender transition surgeries for detained illegal migrants because that's something that she thought was a good thing. And she said it, by the way, she repeated it, she signed on to it over and over again in 2019. So her defense is, oh, the evil orange man actually allowed this. Evil orange man did this, even though there are no instances of this occurring at all whatsoever. And then, of course, she ends up saying, oh, I'll follow the law just like him. But the funny thing about this is that this is something that Kamala Harris advocated for. This is something that she gave her full support towards, but she won't answer whether or not she's in favor of it now. All she'll do is bitch and moan about the fact that Trump is playing these ads across the airwaves.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment
I will
surgeries?
follow the law, just as I
But you have a
think
say
Donald
in
Trump would
this.
say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people. Whereas, at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
And how she's really upset about that when the fact of the matter is that if this was an ineffective ad that didn't move the needle, she would just be dismissing it. And by the way, actually tell us what she thinks about the policies that she advocated for back in 2019.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I know.
And so that would be one change in terms of, but also, I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So, you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes into office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership.
So right there, Brett Baer asked her the crucial question that she's been asked time and time again, and he plays her answer, by the way, where she says that she couldn't think of anything that she would have done different from Joe Biden, and she ends up finally saying, listen, I'm not going to be a continuation of the Biden presidency. This is the separation from Joe Biden that we talked about on this channel before that is likely going to lead to backlash from the Biden camp, which again, I absolutely am here for. I want Kamala Harris to be at war with Joe Biden and his team based on the fact that she wants to throw him under the bus, when in reality, in actuality, the only reason that Kamala Harris is the Democratic presidential candidate is because Joe Biden stepped down and she was the only one who could receive the $30 million in his war chest to actually run for president. So yeah, she's going to throw him under the bus. She's going to backstab him because that's exactly who she is. That's who she's always been. Absolute scum through and through. And we're seeing that on display right now. And I can't wait for the Biden team to respond, to undercut her even further, because honestly, she deserves this. She stole the nomination that she could not have won if she would have actually been honest about Joe Biden's dementia and all his issues and got him to step aside earlier in terms of being the candidate. She would have got demolished in the primary. And the fact is, the person that she is somebody who will sacrifice country for her own power, and that makes her incredibly dangerous.
Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years, so what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up.
Brett Baier asked one of the most crucial questions, which is, you keep running on turning the page and a new way forward and all that, but you're already in office. You've been the vice president for 3.5 years, and we get the same standard stupid answer about how, oh, we have the thing with Trump and his rhetoric and all that. But my favorite part is when she says unburdened, and that makes me laugh because it makes me think of that stupid ass quote she keeps repeating.
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened, I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. You know? What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened. What can be unburdened by what has been. What we can see, what we believe can be, unburdened by what has been. What can be 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 unburdened by what has been. Who we can be, unburdened by who we have been. What can be unburdened by what has been. Where we can be, unburdened by where we've been, and unburdened by where we are right now. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been.
But fundamentally, this question is devastating for Kamala Harris because she wants to run as an agent of change, pretend like she's this newcomer, this outsider, when again, she's been vice president and she's in favor of all these different various policies that make her different from Joe Biden. Why isn't she advocating for them as vice president? Why all of a sudden, now that she's gotten the nomination, does she want to do all of this different various stuff when in reality she could have been in a position to push for this while she was the VP?
Brett, more than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But
people
you're the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me.
So my favorite part about this is the fact that she tried to appeal to Brett, saying, you know what I mean, Brett. You understand where I'm coming from. And Brett's like, no, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Nobody does. Right there, Brett Baier became the avatar for the American people, and I'm absolutely here for it.
The American people, he's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
So Kamala Harris gets mad that this clip of Trump supposedly saying that he's going to commit violence against the American people was not shown. But the fact of the matter is that that clip in particular that she's talking about was Trump saying that in response to him winning, he's expecting there to be rioting like the Antifa rioting that happened after he won in 2016.
Let's remember, you've got 50,000 Chinese nationals in this country in the last couple of years. Yeah. There are people on the terrorist watch list, 350 in the last couple of years. You got, like you said, 13,000 murderers and 15,000 rapists. What are you expecting? Joe Biden said he doesn't think it's going to be a peaceful election day.
Well, he doesn't have any idea what's happening in all fairness. He spends most of his day sleeping. I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country. The towns, the villages, they're being inundated. But I don't think they're the problem in terms of election day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're the big, and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because they can't let that happen.
One of the things that people tend to forget is that the Black Lives Matter riots post George Floyd, that dramatic left-wing violence, that was just a continuation of what was going on during Trump's presidency from the left. If you'll remember, they actually destroyed a limousine because they thought it represented rich people during his inauguration. It ended up belonging to a Middle Eastern immigrant, but there were riots and graffiti and violence from the left consistently outside of Trump's rallies while he was campaigning, after he was elected and he was president-elect, and even on Inauguration Day and beyond that point. So Trump was talking about how they should use the National Guard to clamp down on the rioting from the left wing that, by the way, was encouraged by people like Kamala Harris, bailing out the Black Lives Matter rioters through the Minnesota Bail Fund.
You call Donald Trump, he's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room, and he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
So now this is another great question from Brett Baer, because one of the things that Kamala Harris is trying to do is flip the script and say that Trump is actually cognitively declining. He's so bad for president and he has these mental deficiencies and all that, when the fact of the matter is Kamala Harris covered this up for Joe Biden for years, pretended it away, talked about how he was super sharp behind the scenes. And the reason why she did that is because she knew, in part, if Biden stepped down when they could have run a primary, she would have lost the primary. So she covered up Biden's decline while he was president of the United States. But now she's going to turn around and attack the evil orange man and say that he's in decline, when the fact of the matter is, Trump is pretty much exactly how Trump has been. Sure, he does his weirdo things from time to time, but this is who he was prior to being in office. And sure, with age, he's probably slowed a little bit, but the fact of the matter is, it is not comparable with what Joe Biden had been going through throughout his presidency that Kamala Harris had covered up. So she's trying to deny, deflect, and all that, and it's absolutely embarrassing in every possible way, especially the examples that these people tend to use.
Joe Biden is not on ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
But you talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump.
So one of the examples that Kamala Harris doesn't bring up in this debate, but it was actually brought up on the Kamala HQ Twitter account, was the idea that Trump was just listening to music for 40-something minutes during one of his town halls. When the fact of the matter is, what actually ended up happening was there was a medical emergency in the crowd, and Trump, rather than continuing his town hall like an uncaring absolute animal, decided to pause the rally, and they listened to to music as this person's medical needs were taken care of. Anybody could have looked this up for themselves, but the Kamala Harris campaign had to lie about it, and the reason why is because that's exactly what they do when it comes to the issue of cognitive decline. They lied for years about Biden. Brett Baer is pointing this out, and now they're lying about the evil orange man.
Madam Vice President, they're wrapping me very hard here. I hope you got to say what you wanted to say about Donald Trump. There are a lot of things
There's more to say. I have much more
there
to
are
say,
a lot of
actually.
things that people want to learn about you and your policies, and
Yes.
that's why
I invite everyone to go to KamalaHarris.com, and you will see that I have 80 pages of policies that are quite comprehensive and should be accessible to anyone who would like to read them. And it includes what I intend to do about affordable housing, what I intend to do about small businesses, what I do
And that's why
intend
we
to do to
invited you
strengthen
here,
our economy,
to see where you were in 2019 and where you are
support
now.
America's military and ensure we have the most lethal and best fighting force in the world.
Madam Vice President,
And
they're giving me a hard rap.
Now, what's absolutely hilarious about this is that Kamala's team ends up pulling her out. They end up coming in, they start waving to shut down the interview, because obviously this is going disastrously, and they don't want to give Brett Baer any more highlights, any more time to embarrass Kamala, because her own staff knows that she's an absolute disaster, and you can actually hear her saying, oh, I can stay, to the people that are behind the camera, trying to make it seem like she's talking to Brett Baer, but Brett Baer made this absolutely clear later on during his show. He also pointed out that Kamala Harris ended up showing up late. They ended up reducing the time that they were going to allot to him last minute, and all these different various techniques to throw Brett Baer off of his game. But guess what? Kamala Harris, on her game, can't handle anything. She can't deal with questions, and I also want to point out that for a campaign that was run on joy and vibes, all of a sudden you really see the anger and the fury and the nastiness as soon as she gets pressed. This is the Kamala Harris that we hear about behind the scenes, the nasty, vindictive person who can't wait to cut somebody down before they build them up. And this is exactly what we expected, and it was embarrassing. In fact, it was more embarrassing than a lot of us expected. Some people thought that Brett Baer was going to go soft on her because Fox News wanted to start interviewing top-line Democrats going forward. But the fact is, Brett Baer pressed her. He didn't waste this opportunity. He didn't waste a single question. And Kamala Harris had no response, no retort. You know why? Because she can't handle scrutiny. That's why she hid for so long as vice president. That's why she hid after getting the nomination for 6 weeks. That's why she continued to hide by only doing friendly interviews. And the first time she steps out of her bubble, the first time she steps in to interview with somebody that disagrees with her, she melts down, rages out, and her staff has to pull her out because she's just that weak. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think about this down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Kamala Harris getting demolished by Brett Baer. Till next time.
Literally asked me last night I was like, oh, she doesn't. Like, what? Whose bad moms have y'all had experiences? My mom don't really care about y'all like that. She could give two shits.
Did you stir that in? Yeah, you put it all the way on low.
It said to. And I was like, yeah, I talked to her the other day, and she said she didn't remind you, so I don't think she cared for that. She was like, oh, okay, cool. What time are you going to get back to Tennessee? And I was like, honestly, I'm not really sure. And he was like, okay, well, just let me know when you're back, and if I'm still at Austin, you can hang out. I was like, okay. So I snapped him right at home, and I know he was still at Austin, because I saw Austin Saxon and snapped. So he never said anything, and I was like, okay, whatever.
If you're a Christian and you're looking to grow in your faith or just incorporate God more into your everyday life, check out the Abide app.
Matthew chapter 1. The book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac begat Jacob, and Jacob begat Judas and his brethren. And Judas begat Phares and Zara of Thamar. And Phares begat Esrom, and Esrom begat Aram, and Aram begat Aminadab, and Aminadab begat Naason, and Naason begat Salmon, and Salmon begat Boaz and Rechab, and Boaz begat Obed of Ruth, and Obed begat Jesse, and Jesse begat David the king, And David the king begat Solomon of her that had been the wife of Urias. And Solomon begat Rehoboam, and Rehoboam begat Abiah. And Abiah begat Asa, and Asa begat Josaphat, and Josaphat begat Joram, and Joram begat Ozias, and Ozias begat Joatham, and Joatham begat Achaz, and Achaz begat Ezekias. And Ezekias begat Manasses, and Manasses begat Amon, and Amon begat Josias, and Josias begat Jeconias, and his brethren about the time they were carried away to Babylon. And after they were brought to Babylon, Jeconias begat Salathiel, and Salathiel begat Zerubbabel, and Zerubbabel begat Abiud, and Abiud begat Eliakim, and Eliakim begat Azor, and Azor begat Sadok, and Sadok begat Achim, and Achim begat Eliud, and Eliud begat Eleazar, and Eleazar begat Matthan, and Matthan begat Jacob, and Jacob begat Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who is called Christ. So all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations, and from David until the carrying away into Babylon are 14 generations, and from the carrying away into Babylon unto Christ are 14 generations. Now the birth of Jesus Christ was on this wise. When as his mother Mary was espoused to Joseph, before they came together, she was found with child of the Holy Ghost. And Joseph, her husband, being a just man, and not willing to make her a public example, was minded to put her away privily. But while he thought on these things, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a dream, saying, Joseph, thou son of David, fear not to take unto thee Mary thy wife, for that which is conceived in her is of the Holy Ghost. And she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins. Now all this was done, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, Behold, a virgin shall be with child, and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which being interpreted is, God with us. Then Joseph, being raised from sleep, did as the angel of the Lord had bidden him, and took unto him his wife, and knew her not, till she had brought forth her firstborn son, and he called his name Jesus. Matthew chapter 2. Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. And they said unto him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princes of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor, that shall rule my people Israel. Then Herod, when he had privily called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem, and said, Go and search diligently for the young child, and when ye have found him, bring me word again, that I may come and worship him also. When they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star, which they saw in the east, went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down, and worshipped him. And when they opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold, and frankincense, and myrrh. And being warned of God in a dream, that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeareth to Joseph in a dream, says, And take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word. For Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night, and departed into Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt have I called my son. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, and sent forth, and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem, and in all the coasts thereof, for 2 years old and under, according to the time he had diligently inquired of the wise men. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet, saying, In Ramah was there a voice heard, lamentation and weeping and great mourning. Rachel weeping for her children, and would not be comforted, for they are not. But when Herod was dead, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, Arise, and take the young child and his mother, and go into the land of Israel, for they are dead which sought the young child's life. And he arose and took the young child and his mother, and came into the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus did reign in Judea in the room of his father Herod, he was afraid to go thither. Notwithstanding, being warned of God in a dream, he turned aside into the parts of Galilee. And he came and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophets. He shall be called a Nazarene. Matthew chapter 3. In those days came John the Baptist, preaching in the wilderness of Judea, and saying, Repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. For this is he that was spoken of by the prophet Isaiah, saying, The voice of one crying in the wilderness, Prepare ye the way of the Lord, make his paths straight. And the same John had his raiment of camel's hair, and a leathern girdle about his loins, and his meat was locusts and wild honey. Then went out to him Jerusalem, and all of Judea, and all the region round about Jordan, and were baptized of him in Jordan, confessing their sins. But when he saw many of the Pharisees and Sadducees come to his baptism, he said unto them, O generation of vipers, who hath warned you to flee from the wrath to come? Bring forth therefore fruits meet for repentance. And think not to say within yourselves, We have Abraham to our father. For I say unto you, that God is able of these stones to raise up children unto Abraham. And now also the axe is laid unto the root of the trees. Therefore every tree which bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. I indeed baptize you with water unto repentance. But he that cometh after me is mightier than I, whose shoes I am not worthy to bear. He shall baptize you with the Holy Ghost and with fire, whose fan is in his hand, and he will thoroughly purge his floor, and gather his wheat into the garner, but he will burn up the chaff with unquenchable fire. Then cometh Jesus from Galilee to Jordan unto John, to be baptized of him. But John forbade him, saying, I have need to be baptized of thee, and comest thou to me? And Jesus answering said unto him, Suffer it to be so now, for thus it becometh us to fulfill all righteousness. Then he suffered him. And Jesus, when he was baptized, went up straightway out of the water. And lo, the heavens were opened unto him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove, and lighting upon him. And lo, a voice from heaven, saying, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Matthew chapter 4. Then was Jesus led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward an hungered. And when the tempter came to him, he said, If thou be the Son of God, command that these stones be made bread. But he answered and said, It is written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Then the devil taketh him up into the holy city, and setteth him on the pinnacle of the temple, and saith unto him, If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down. For it is written, He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. Jesus said unto him, It is written again, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Again, the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world, and the glory of them, and saith unto him, All these things I will give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. Then saith Jesus unto him, Get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. Then the devil leaveth him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him. Now when Jesus had heard that John had been cast into prison, he departed into Galilee, and leaving Nazareth, he came and dwelt in Capernaum, which is upon the sea coast, in the borders of Zebulun and Nephthalim, that it might be fulfilled which is spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, The land of Zebulun and the land of Nephthalim, by the way of the sea, beyond Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. The people which sat in darkness saw great light, and to them which sat in the region and shadow of death, light is sprung up. From that time, Jesus began to preach and to say, Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And Jesus, walking by the Sea of Galilee, saw two brethren, Simon called Peter, and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishers. And he saith unto them, Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And they straightway left their nets and followed him. And going on from thence, he saw other two brethren, James, the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, in a ship, with Zebedee their father, mending their nets, and he called them. And they immediately left the ship and their father, and followed him. And Jesus went about all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing all manner of sickness and all manner of disease among the people. And his fame went throughout all Syria, and they brought unto him all sick people that were taken with divers disease and torments, and those which were possessed with devils, and those which were lunatic, and those that had the palsy, and he healed them. And there followed him great multitudes of people from Galilee, and from Decapolis, and from Jerusalem, and from Judea, and from beyond Jordan. Matthew chapter 5. And seeing the multitude, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him. And he opened his mouth, and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye, when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. Ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt have lost his savour, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out, and to be trodden under foot of men. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle, and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works, and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till it be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees, you shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, Thou shalt not kill, and whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. But I say unto you, that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whosoever shall say to his brother, Reka, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, Thou fool, shall be in danger of hell fire. Therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there remembered that thy brother hath aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled with thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. Agree with thine adversary quickly, whilst thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. Verily I say unto you, thou shalt by no means come out thence, till thou hast paid the uttermost farthing. Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, Thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh at a woman in lust after her, hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. And if thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out, and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. And if thy right hand offend thee, cut it off, and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. It hath been said, whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement. But I say unto you, that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causeth her to commit adultery. And whosoever shall marry her that is divorced, committeth adultery. Again ye have heard that it hath been said by them of old time, Thou shalt not forswear thyself, but shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Neither shalt thou swear by the head, because thou canst not make one hair white or black. But let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. Ye have heard that it hath been said, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you, that ye resist not evil. But whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if any man will sue thee at the law, and take away thy coat, let him have thy cloak also. And whosoever shall compel thee to go a mile, go with him twain. Give to him that asketh thee, and from him that would borrow of thee, turn not thou away. Ye have heard that it hath been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor, and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. For if ye love them that love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the publicans the same? And if ye salute your brethren only, what do ye more than others? Do not even the publicans so? Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. Matthew chapter 6. Take heed that you do not your alms before men to be seen by them. Otherwise ye have no reward of your Father which is in heaven. Therefore, when thou doest thine alms, do not sound a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth, that thine alms may be in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret himself shall reward thee openly. And when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. But when ye pray, use not vain repetitions as the heathen do, for they think they shall be heard for their much speaking. Be not ye therefore like unto them, for your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. After this manner therefore pray ye, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. For if ye forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if ye forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. Moreover, when ye fast, be not as the hypocrites of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, that they may appear unto men to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when thou fastest, anoint thine head, and wash thy face, that thou appear not unto men to fast, but unto thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. Therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, nor yet for your body, what ye shall put on. Is not the life more than meat, and the body than raiment? Behold the fowls of the air, for they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. Are ye not much better than they? Which of you, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit unto his stature? And why take ye thought for raiment? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. And yet I say unto you, that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Wherefore, if God so clothe the grass of the field, which today is, and tomorrow is cast into the oven, shall he not much more clothe you, O ye of little faith? Therefore take no thought, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or wherewithal shall we be clothed? For after all these things do the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of all these things. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Take therefore no thought for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Matthew chapter 7. Judge not, that ye be not judged. For with what judgment ye judge, you shall be judged. And with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again. And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own eye? Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote out of thine eye, and behold, a beam is in thine own eye? Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then thou shalt see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye. Give not that which is holy to the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened. For every one that asketh, receiveth, and he that seeketh, findeth. And to him that knocketh, it shall be opened. Or what man is there of you, whom, if his son ask bread, will he give him a stone? Or if he ask a fish, will he give him a serpent? If ye then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father, which is in heaven, give good things to them that ask him? Therefore all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets. Enter ye in at the strait gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because strait is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns, or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore, by their fruits you shall know them. Not every one that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name, and in thy name have cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works? And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine, and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man, which built his house upon a rock. And the rains descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. And every one that heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them not shall be likened unto a foolish man, which built his house upon the sand. And the rains descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell. And great was the fall of it. And it came to pass, when Jesus had ended these sayings, the people were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as one having authority, and not as the scribes. Matthew chapter 8. When he was come down from the mountain, great multitudes followed him. And behold, there came a leper and worshipped him, saying, Lord, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. And Jesus put forth his hand and touched him, saying, I will, be thou clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. And Jesus saith unto him, See thou tell no man, but go thy way. Show thyself to the priest, and offer the gift that Moses commanded, for a testimony unto them. And when Jesus was entered into Capernaum, there came unto him a centurion, beseeching him, and saying, Lord, my servant lieth at home, sick of the palsy, grievously tormented. And Jesus said unto him, I will come and heal him. The centurion answered and said, Lord, I am not worthy that thou shouldst come under my roof, but speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed. For I am a man under authority, having soldiers under me. And I say to this man, Go, and he goeth, and to another, Come, and he cometh, and to my servant, Do this, and he doeth it. When Jesus heard it, he marveled, and said to them that followed, Verily I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. And I say unto you, that many shall come to the east and west, and shall sit down with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the children of the kingdom shall be cast out into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And Jesus said unto the centurion, Go thy way, and as thou hast believed, so it be done unto thee. And his servant was healed in the selfsame hour. And when Jesus was come into Peter's house, he saw his wife's mother laid and sick of a fever. And he touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she arose, and ministered unto them. When the even was come, they brought unto him many that were possessed with devils, and he cast out the spirits with his word, and healed all that were sick, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, Himself took our infirmities, and bare our sicknesses. Now when Jesus saw great multitudes about him, he gave commandment to depart unto the other side. And a certain scribe came and said unto him, Master, I will follow thee whithersoever thou goest. And Jesus said unto him, The foxes have holes, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head. And another of his disciples said unto him, Lord, suffer me first to go and bury my father. But Jesus said unto him, Follow me, let the dead bury their dead. And when he entered into a ship, his disciples followed him. And behold, there arose a great tempest of the sea, insomuch that the ship was covered with the waves, but he was asleep. And his disciples came to him, and awoke him, saying, Lord, save us, we perish. And he saith unto them, Why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? Then he arose, and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. But the men marveled, saying, What manner of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? And when he came to the other side, into the country of the Gergesenes, there met him two possessed with devils, coming out of the tombs, exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass by that way. And behold, they cried out, saying, What have we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Are you come hither to torment us before the time? And there was a good way off from them, an herd of many swine feeding. So the devils besought him, saying, If thou cast us out, suffer us to go away into the herd of swine. And he said unto them, Go. And when they were come out, they went into the herd of swine, and behold, the whole herd of swine ran violently down to a steep place into the sea, and perished in the waters. And they that kept them fled, and went their ways into the city, and told everything, and what was befallen to the possessed of the devils. And behold, the whole city came out to meet Jesus, and when they saw him, they besought him that he would depart out of their coasts. Matthew chapter 9. And he entered into a ship, and passed over, and came into his own city. And behold, they brought to him a man sick of the palsy, lying on a bed. And Jesus, seeing their faith, said unto the sick of the palsy, Son, be of good cheer, thy sins be forgiven thee. And behold, certain of the scribes said within themselves, This man blasphemeth. And Jesus, knowing their thoughts, said, Wherefore think ye evil in your hearts? For whether is easier to say, Thy sins be forgiven thee, or to say, Arise and walk? But that ye may know that the Son of Man hath power on earth to forgive sins, then saith he to the sick of the palsy, Arise, take up thy bed, and go into thine house. And he arose, and departed to his house. But when the multitudes saw it, they marveled, and glorified God, which had given such power unto men. And as Jesus passed forth from thence, he saw a man named Matthew, sitting at the receipt of custom, and he saith unto him, Follow me. And he arose and followed him. And it came to pass, as Jesus sat at meat in the house, behold, many publicans and sinners came and sat down with him and his disciples. And when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto his disciples, Why eateth your master with publicans and sinners? But when Jesus heard that, he said unto them, They that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. But go ye and learn what that meaneth. I will have mercy and not sacrifice. For I am not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. Then came to him the disciples of John, saying, Why do we and the Pharisees fast oft, but thy disciples fast not? And Jesus said unto them, Can the children of the bride chamber mourn, as long as the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come, when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, and then shall they fast. No man putteth a piece of new cloth unto an old garment. For that which is put in to fill it up taketh from the garment, and the rent is made worse. Neither do men put new wine into old bottles, else the bottles break, and the wine runneth out, and the bottles perish. But they put new wine into new bottles, and both are preserved. While he spake these things unto them, behold, there came a certain ruler, and worshipped him, saying, My daughter is even now dead. But come and lay thy hand upon her, and she shall live. And Jesus arose and followed him, and so did his disciples. And behold, the woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him, and touched the hem of his garment. For she said within herself, If I may but touch his garment, I shall be whole. But Jesus turned him about, and when he saw her, he said, Daughter, be of good comfort. Thy faith hath made thee whole. And the woman was made whole from that hour. And when Jesus came into the ruler's house, and saw the minstrels and the people making a noise, he said unto them, Give place, for the maid is not dead, but sleepeth. And they laughed him to scorn. But when the people were put forth, he went in, and took her by the hand, and the maid arose. And the fame hereof went abroad into all that land. And when Jesus departed thence, 2 blind men followed him, crying and saying, Thou Son of David, have mercy on us. And when he was come into the house, the blind men came to him. And Jesus saith unto them, Believe ye that I am able to do this? They said unto him, Yea, Lord. Then touched he their eyes, saying, According to your faith be it unto you. And their eyes were opened, and Jesus straitly charged them, saying, See that no man know it. But they, when they departed, spread abroad his fame in all that country. As they went out, behold, they brought to him a dumb man possessed with the devil. When the devil was cast out, the dumb spake, and the multitudes marveled, saying, It was never so seen in Israel. But the Pharisees said, He casteth out devils through the prince of the devils. And Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues, and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion on them, because they fainted and were scattered abroad, as sheep having no shepherd. Then saith he unto his disciples, The harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he will send forth laborers into his harvest.
Yes.
Matthew chapter 10. And when he had called unto him his 12 disciples, he gave them power against unclean spirits to cast them out, and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease. Now the names of the 12 apostles are these. The first, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James, the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew, James the son of Alphaeus, and Lebbaeus, whose surname was Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, who also betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as ye go, preach, saying, The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely ye have received, freely give. Provide neither gold nor silver, nor brass in your purse, nor scrip for your journey, neither two coats, neither shoes, nor yet staves, for the work.
I'm gonna take a break because that shit just pissed me the fuck off. They just keep spawning all these goddamn cars right in front of this fucking fire truck, and so they're throwing them all over the road as soon as it's necessary for me to be right there.
Whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear your words, when ye depart out of that house or city, shake off the dust off your feet. Verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues. And ye shall be brought before the governors and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them and the Gentiles. But when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what ye shall speak, for it shall be given you in that same hour what you shall speak. For it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your Father, which speaketh in you. And the brother shall deliver up the brother to death, and the father the child, and the children shall rise up against their parents, and cause them to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that endureth to the end shall be saved. But when they persecute you in this city, flee ye into another. For verily I say unto you, ye shall not have gone over the cities of Israel, till the Son of Man be come. The disciple is not above his master, nor the servant above his Lord. It is enough for the disciple that he be as his master, and the servant as his Lord. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more shall they call them of his household? Fear them not, therefore, for there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, and hid that shall not be known. What I tell you in darkness, that speak ye in light, and what ye hear in the ear, that preach ye upon the housetops. And fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a farthing, and one of them shall not fall on the ground without your Father? But the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Fear ye not, therefore, ye are of more value than many sparrows. Whosoever, therefore, shall confess me before men, him will I confess also before my Father which is in heaven. But whomsoever shall deny me before men, him will I also deny before my Father which is in heaven. Think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's foes shall be they of his own household. He that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he that loveth son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he that taketh not his cross and followeth after me is not worthy of me. And he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it. He that receiveth you receiveth me, and he that receiveth me receiveth him that sent me. He that receiveth a prophet in the name of a prophet shall receive a prophet's reward, and he that receiveth a righteous man in the name of a righteous man shall receive a righteous man's reward. And whosoever shall give to drink unto one of these little ones a cup of cold water only in the name of a disciple, verily I say unto you, he shall in no wise lose his reward. Matthew chapter 11. And it came to pass, when Jesus had made an end of commanding his 12 disciples, he departed thence to teach and to preach in their cities. Now when John had heard in the prison the works of Christ, he sent 2 of his disciples, and said unto him, Art thou he that should come, or do we look for another? Jesus answered and said unto them, Go and show John again these things which ye do hear and see. The blind receive their sight, and the lame walk. The lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear. The dead are raised up, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. And blessed is he whosoever shall not be offended in me. And as they departed, Jesus began to say unto the multitudes concerning John, What went ye out into the wilderness to see? A reed shaken with the wind? But what went ye out for to see? A man clothed in soft raiment? Behold, they that wear soft clothing are in kings' houses. But what went ye out for to see? A prophet? Yea, I say unto you, and more than a prophet. For this is he of whom it is written, Behold, I send my messenger before thy face, which shall prepare thy way before thee. Verily I say unto you, among them that are born of women, there hath not risen a greater than John the Baptist. Notwithstanding, he that is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. And from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent take it by force. For all the prophets and the law prophesied until John. And if ye will receive it, this is Elias, which was for to come. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. But whereunto shall I liken this generation? It is like unto children sitting in the markets, and calling unto their fellows, and saying, We have piped unto you, and ye have not danced. We have mourned unto you, and ye have not lamented. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say, He hath a devil. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, Behold, a man gluttonous, and a wine-bibber, a friend of publicans and sinners. But wisdom is justified of her children. Then began he to upbraid the cities wherein most of his mighty works were done, because they repented not. Woe unto thee, Chorazin! Woe unto thee, Bethsaida! For if the mighty works which were done in you had been done in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. But I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for Tyre and Sidon at the day of judgment than for you. And thou, Capernaum, which art exalted unto heaven, shall be brought down to hell. For if the mighty works which have been done in thee had been done in Sodom, it would have remained until this day. But I say unto you, that it shall be more tolerable for the land of Sodom in the day of judgment than for thee. At the time Jesus answered and said, I thank thee, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because thou hast hid these things from the wise and prudent, and hast revealed them unto babes. Even so, Father, for it seemed good in thy sight. All things are delivered unto me of my Father, and no man knoweth the Son but the Father. Neither knoweth any man the Father, save the Son, and he to whomsoever the Son will reveal him. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart. And you shall find rest unto your souls, for my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Matthew chapter 12. At that time, Jesus went on the Sabbath day through the corn, and his disciples were an-hungered, and began to pluck the ears of corn and to eat. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto him, Behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do upon the Sabbath day. But he said unto them, Have ye not read what David did when he was an-hungered, and they that were with him? How he entered into the house of God, and did eat the shewbread, which was not lawful for him to eat, neither for them which were with him, but only for the priests. Or have ye not read in the law, how that on the Sabbath days the priests in the temples profane the Sabbath and are blameless? But I say unto you, that in this place is one greater than the temple. But if ye had known what this meaneth, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, ye would not have condemned the guiltless. For the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath day. And when he was departed thence, he went into the synagogue. And behold, there was a man which had his hand withered. And they asked him, saying, Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath days, that they might accuse him? And he said unto them, What man shall there be among you that shall have one sheep? And if it fall into a pit on the Sabbath day, will he not lay hold on it and lift it out? How much then is a man better than a sheep? Wherefore it is lawful to do well on the Sabbath days. Then saith he to the man, Stretch forth thine hand. And he stretched it forth, and it was restored whole, like as the other. Then the Pharisees went out and held a council against him, how they might destroy him. But when Jesus knew it, he withdrew himself from thence, and great multitudes followed him, and he healed them all, and charged them that they should not make him known, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, Behold my servant, whom I have chosen, my beloved, in whom my soul is well pleased. I will put my spirit upon him, and he shall show judgment to the Gentiles. He shall not strive nor cry, neither shall any man hear his voice in the streets. A bruised reed shall he not break, and smoking flax shall he not quench, till he send forth judgment unto victory. And in his name shall the Gentiles trust. Then was brought unto him one possessed with a devil, blind and dumb, and he healed him, insomuch that the blind and dumb both spake and saw. And all the people were amazed, and said, Is not this the son of David? But when the Pharisees heard it, they said, This fellow doth not cast out devils, but by Beelzebub, the prince of the devils. And Jesus knew their thoughts, and said unto them, Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? And if I by Beelzebub cast out devils, by whom do your children cast them out? Therefore they shall be your judges. But if I cast out devils by the Spirit of God, then the kingdom of God is come unto you. Or else how can one enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he first bind the strong man, and then he will spoil his house? He that is not with me is against me, and he that gathereth not with me scattereth abroad. Wherefore I say unto you, all manner of sin and blasphemy shall be forgiven unto men, but the blasphemy against the Holy Ghost shall not be forgiven unto men. And whosoever speaketh a word against the Son of Man, it shall be forgiven him. But whosoever speaketh against the Holy Ghost, it shall not be forgiven him, neither in this world, neither in the world to come. Either make the tree good, and his fruit good, or else make the tree corrupt, and his fruit corrupt. For the tree is known by his fruit. O generation of vipers, how can ye, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaketh. A good man out of the good treasure of the heart bringeth forth good things, and an evil man out of the evil treasure bringeth forth evil things. But I say unto you that every idle word...
I'm going to give it another shot. Try to finish this one up.
By thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. Then certain of the scribes and the Pharisees answered, saying, Master, we would see a sign from thee. But he answered and said unto them, An evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall be no sign be given to it, but the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. The men of Nineveh shall rise in judgment with this generation, and shall, because they repented at the preaching of Jonah, and behold, a greater than Jonah is here. The queen of the south shall rise up in the judgment with this generation, and shall condemn it. For she came from the uttermost parts of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and behold, a greater than Solomon is here. When the unclean spirit is gone out of a man, he walketh through dry places, seeking rest, and findeth none. Then he saith, I will return into my house from whence I came. And when he is come, he findeth it empty, swept and garnished. Then goeth he, and taketh with him 7 other spirits, more wicked than himself, and they enter in and dwell there. And the last state of that man is worse than the first. Even so shall it be also unto this wicked generation. While he yet talked to the people, behold, his mother and his brethren stood without, desiring to speak with him. Then one said unto him, Behold, thy mother and thy brethren stand without, desiring to speak with thee. But he answered and said unto him that told them, Who is my mother, and who is my brethren? And he stretched forth his hand toward his disciples, and said, Behold, my mother and my brethren. For whosoever shall do the will of my Father which is in heaven, the same is my brother and sister and mother. Matthew chapter 13. The same day went Jesus out of the house, and sat by the seaside, and great multitudes were gathered together unto him, so that he went into a ship and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. And he spake many things unto them in parables, saying, Behold, a sower went forth to sow. And when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up. Some fell upon stony places, where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up, because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. Some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. But other fell into good ground, and brought forth fruit, some 100-fold, some 60-fold, some 30-fold. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. And the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Esaias, which saith, By hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see, and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For verily I say unto you, that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which we see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which ye hear, and have not heard them. Hear yet therefore the parable of the sower. When anyone heareth the word of the kingdom, and understandeth it not, then cometh the wicked one, and catcheth away that which was sown in his heart. This is he which received the seed by the wayside. But he that received the seed into stony places, the same is he that heareth the word, and anon with joy receiveth it. Yet hath he not root in himself, but dureth for a while. For when tribulation or persecution ariseth because of the word, by and by he is offended. He also that received the seed among the thorns is he that heareth the word, and the care of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and he becometh unfruitful. But he that received seed into the good ground is he that heareth the word, and understandeth it, which also bringeth fruit, and bringeth forth some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which soweth good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came, and sowed tares among the wheat, and went his way. But when the blade was sprung up, and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servants of the householder came, and said unto him, Sir, didst thou not sow good seed in thy field? From whence then hath it tares? He said unto them, An enemy hath done this. The servants said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, Nay, lest while ye gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, Gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is like to a grain of mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field, which indeed is the least of all seeds, but when it is grown, it is the greatest among herbs, and becometh a tree, so that the birds of the air come and lodge in the branches thereof. Another parable spake he unto them, The kingdom of heaven is like unto leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal, till the whole was leavened. All these things spake Jesus unto the multitude in parables, and without a parable spake he not unto them, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet, saying, I will open my mouth in parables, I will utter things which have been kept secret from the foundation of the world. Then Jesus sent the multitude away, and went into the house, and his disciples came unto him, saying, Declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field. He answered and said unto them, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a treasure hid in the field, the which when a man hath found, he hideth, and for joy thereof goeth and selleth all that he hath, and buyeth that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchantman seeking goodly pearls, who, when he had found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a net that was cast into the sea, and gathered of every kind, which when it was full, they drew to shore, and sat down, and gathered the good into vessels, but cast the bad away. So shall it be at the end of the world. The angels shall come forth, and sever the wicked from among the just.
Smoke done.
There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Jesus saith unto them,
Without our 15 microdots and an ounce of whiskey, let's go get something to eat. Sounds good to me.
Officer. Officer. And now, if you want to, you can continue to kill motherfucking gang members taking over their territories.
Gotta stay on top of our gang.
Gotta stay on top of our gang. Keep everything in check.
We got problems in Ventura,
Problems in Ventura. Problems in San Fierro. Shit's never ending. Then why do you say you're glad it was over, bitch? We gotta keep our shit tight. A lot of people got their eyes on us. Who the fuck? Mad Dog with Rosenberg. Man, I don't know how much time passed, but oh. Hey, you can't shame me for that.
We should hit the casinos, roll some dice for Woozy.
Nah, we gotta take care of shit here first. We're going on tour, fam.
Anyone got a tissue? My nose and I won't stop running. Anybody? Yeah, I have. Over there. I'll pass.
Carl, where are you off to now?
Finna hit the block. See what's happening.
See what's happening. We up at it. I don't remember if they roll credits or what are they? Okay, yeah, they roll credits on, yeah. I mean, I can't lie. This is my favorite game for a while. I mean, there were other games that that were just completely different than this, that it would be hard for me to compare to this because it's just so different. Like a Super Smash Melee when it came out. CJ Dick. Okay. But man, like this was legit one of my favorites. I mean, just what seemed like it, like just an amazing experience for a player, you know. To let the black guy be the first nigga that can swim. I mean, the first, GTA character. The differences in each of the counties or each of the districts, and the differences between the districts, between the cities, the differences of the cities themselves, all the different vehicles, being able to fly, being able to, I believe in Vice City you can steal a army helicopter, like an Apache type thing. I think the Hunter. And the only thing that I think, that GTA 5 you can do that you can't do in here is what? I mean, obviously it's way better graphics and yada yada, but all the mini games that you can do that were handled a little differently and a little better in GTA 5 you can do in here. Shit, I didn't even pick up a basketball. Laszlo, which he shows up. But man, I really would like Ice-T, Big Boy, Kid Frost, James Woods. But I would really like, because really in GTA 5, I think everybody was expecting to see CJ now. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I only played the game for, a bit, like a year or something. But I don't think any DLCs introduced Carl or Sweet or Kindle or anybody like that. Which I thought for sure somebody would. I know even in the game it might have been 30 years or 20 years or whatever it's been in the game, but now we got GTA 6 coming out. Looks like they're going to be in Vice City, and Tommy Vercetti's they put that in the trailer. So I feel as though there might be another maybe more surprising or more what they think will be a more talked about cameo. And in Miami, who would you put down there? Like, I'm sure that you could really have any celebrities be down there, even if it was just for I'm doing a show down here. Snoop Dogg, Lil Wayne, fucking Fat Joe. Could you imagine if they had Diddy in that motherfucker, or Diddy's mansion in that motherfucker, and there's dildos and baby oil and shit? I wouldn't be surprised at all if they did some shit like that. But yeah, we got the casinos here. Okay, so the stock market isn't available. All the digital technologies, calling a taxi, the more intricate personal things when you go into Franklin's house, you can hit the bong, or if you go to Michael's house, you can do yoga, or again, but as far as where something may have started from the top down, Grand Theft Auto 2, to the more sandbox 3D Grand Theft Auto 3, which is the first one I played. And all the kids on my football team, they were like, "What? You got that? Oh shit!" They could not wait. And it was so funny because as soon as I stopped hanging out with them, because I went to high school and I stopped playing Little League, I had other friends, and they got Vice City. Actually, I think Vice City would have already been out at some point, so I might not have stopped hanging out with them yet. But my homie that I was going to school with had Vice City, and we did the classic, you know, you play till you die, and then you pass that controller. And I mean, I thought it was amazing. You know, I remember how pissed we were at first, though, because, like, Grand Theft Auto 3, again, I'd have to look back, but maybe I was just young enough, or the game that I was playing on, they had already unlocked the shit, if that was something in GTA 3, but I don't think it was. Because something tells me that I read in a Game Informer magazine that, like, it's the map is restricted until a certain point in the story or something like that. And so I thought that it was specific to Vice City, like they hadn't done that before. Like a hurricane had come through, so the bridge is out, so you're not able to see the other parts of Vice City right away until you hit a particular part in the mission. In this one, I'm not 100% sure, but I want to say there's not a whole lot you can do, but I'm pretty sure you can go. No, they got the bridge shut down to Los Venturas. But I'm still not 100% on that. But I know in this gameplay, I tried to take well, I don't know if I was recording at that particular point, but I could have sworn while I was playing it most recently, you know, in the last, whatever it is, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever. Oh God. Is it Catalina? Yeah, you sick. Get out. And you are jealous. Why are you still calling me? But dude, I mean, yeah, because I didn't even know I could steal a train. As many hours as I put in this game, I had never actually stolen a fucking train. At least not that I'm aware of. Not that I remember. And I had hopped in the train early on, obviously, upon getting to San Fierro. And I'm trying to take the train up to Los Venturas. And as we hit the bridge, when we hit the bridge and we're going up, we run into a barricade and the train stops, and then I have to go backwards back into the station. I'm not 100% sure, though. I want to say you can steal a Hydra and drop yourself anywhere on the map from the beginning of the game, but like I said, there won't be a whole lot you can do. You probably go to the gym, get tattoos, get haircuts, buy clothes, do other little side things. But for now, after you finished the whole game, this was another little detail I liked. It's like there's still things to do. Like, especially the way I did it. There's a whole bunch of challenges still. There's the tags. There's the horseshoes, the oysters. There's turning in all the stolen vehicles at the Easter Basin docks. There's I did all the schools, I think, because you had to do the driving and you had to do the flying. The only one you didn't have to do is the motorcycle one, I think. But I did that one too. But shit, man. We might come back to this here and there just to have some fun. But I think for right now, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream on this end. What is coming next? What am I going to do? What would I like to do on my next stream? I got tomorrow off. At the regular job. I don't know. There's a bunch of different things. Like, I've thought about the whole Birdman Flat Earth thing was cool. I am still gonna look into getting some editing software. That way I can just do more of those video essay type things or responses. But I'm not really sure what I want to do tomorrow. I guess we're gonna figure out what I want to do on stream next. The next game I'm gonna finish is probably gonna be Skyrim.
You finished?
Yeah.
So like, can you not play it anymore? Or can you still play it?
Yeah, I was talking about that earlier. That's one of the good things about this game is you finish the storyline. There's still all kinds of shit you can do. You can take over all the hoods in Los Santos and make it so Grove Street runs the whole city. But as for right now, since I've been doing this for 3 hours and just wanted to finish the game, I was trying to figure out what stream I want to do, or what do I want to stream about next. I don't think I'm gonna do a game next, as in tomorrow, the very next thing I do, or later tonight.
I was gonna ask if you wanted to keep doing BoJack, because we haven't done it in like a month.
Which is true, and I literally just published the first episode, and then...
Well, I know we were in like season 2.
Yeah, because then there's like an hour-long episode of BoJack, and then there's like a 6-hour-long episode after that. I put all those on YouTube yesterday. I mean, yeah, we could. Yeah, I don't care. I'm about to do some things.
Did you not sleep? Or
Huh?
were you just busy?
Yeah, I was busy, and
I was like, is my cooking not bad?
yeah, it's not cooking. It's
Well,
just,
yeah, but
it's just, I had already ate.
Oh yeah.
Oh, CJ, what are you doing?
With his one butt pocket.
I don't know why. It looks like shit. He was dancing.
Look at his little glasses on, looking studious.
Yeah.
Very studious. Look, he know it. He like, oh yeah.
She's talking that talk, gassing me up.
I promise I'm not, but he does look studious. I think anyone with sunglasses on and they put off really well looks studious. Doesn't matter if they're normal glasses or sunglasses.
Grove Street.
You can pull them off real well. You looking real studious.
He used to dance, I thought.
Can you make him dance?
I don't know. Ain't none of those. Hey, what's that? Oh, respect all the way up, muscle all the way up, weapon skill all the way up. Which is weird. Oh, it's probably the clothes you got on. And
Why would that not be higher, bro? I saw that in the street. I'd be higher.
I mean, if you muscle all the way up, you should be able to not wear a shirt.
Yeah, sex appeal would be skyrocketing.
But these are some.
Because I'd be like, if I saw that in real life, I'd be like,
That is an expensive ass haircut.
it don't even look that good, kid.
You don't.
It's too many braids. That's the problem.
It's expensive as fuck.
That chain looks fire.
These cheap ass pants. That's probably why the hoes ain't giving me no love.
I don't even like the hoes in this, kid.
Well, no, I just meant women in general. Alright, y'all hoes, come over here. We got to go on a mission. Even though I said I was going to stop. Actually, I am. Y'all, handle that business.
We can't get in our hood, y'all. You gotta be good young niggas. Not trash ones.
Drug dealers?
I'm really curious on who that one streamer is, but on one stream. Cause they always there.
Squad D.
Yes. Okay, all this shit. That'd be a good like little screenshot. Look, everyone running. They know what's up. Look at you in your game. Who's that in the back?
Hey, y'all run in front of me. See the camera here? They can't keep up to me.
Nah. They just can't believe they walked with you, bro. Cause they know you the shit.
Okay. Alright, well y'all figure it out.
These ain't gonna keep following you. I don't know, Gil. They might try. She's stopping all the traffic. She can't even talk.
Jump in, family.
I don't know if there's two people. I bet the rest will follow you though if you start driving.
Homies over here.
If you start driving.
That's alright. I'm just waiting for a couple of balls.
Dab on the haters. We need to bring Dabs back. I think that's seriously like all this crap, bro. They not in shape like you. We saw how most of them. No offense. It'd be cool if you got in a truck and they just all got like in the back of it. You activate you. And then they has nothing to send to me. They're running away actually. There. I know there's some over there too. Get your mom. Y'all gonna stand there. I be shooting them up. Be like, I really don't know. Y'all some fun. Can't be nothing right. They're like, oh, don't stop shooting up your game. You're like, oh my God, you got everything coming for you. You know what I'm saying? You need a big old one. Get them out of here, man. Bazooka.
Alright, since y'all don't want to ride with me.
Hashtag. What is.
Here we go.
Robin Williams when he dressed up as a mom. That's what that made me think of. Mrs. Doubtfire. Hashtag Mrs. Doubtfire looks like. Couldn't think of what it's called that for.
Hey, homie, over here.
Wait, her face kind of hard though. That's all you need right there is the bazooka. No, Caleb, do not blow her up. Her fit is hard. Blow him up. You look like an off.
What you think
Exactly.
now, fool?
Yup, you know what's up. Secret Service. Oh, he is no secret. He in something. He got he locked up and everything.
Bitch, huh? Send them duckers over here.
This police department? So what did you do if you worked in the police department? A motherfucker walked in with a bazooka.
I would surrender immediately. And I mean immediately. I would not put my gun up. I would immediately drop to my knees. I'll help you. Let's go. Or I'll just take a first move. Depending on the day, depending on the situation.
What if you went in the shower? And you found out there was a dildo in there.
Now call me a bitch, bitch. Keep on with this shit, you'll be sorry.
Pretty sure there should be a shower in here to wash all this somewhere? There's gotta be. Here it is. Yes, the showers. Why are the police keeping this in the shower?
What is that? Caleb, what is that? What is that, Caleb?
It said the name of it. You didn't see it?
No, I was too far away. Go. Is that really what? Oh my god, bro. Why is that in the
cop shower?
Yes.
That's what they do. They sit on the double sided.
That's disgusting. What? Caleb found a purple dildo in the cop showers. And it's big too. Pull it up again, Caleb. You know, once you. Look at that shit.
Damn, that's a double-sided dildo.
I know!
Who's next? Just back it up.
You would think they'd all come running for that shit right there.
Oh,
oh. Nope.
Yeah, that's some gay shit right there.
Whoop people with it. It's crazy, man.
Leave me alone. I'm just trying to. Excuse me. I almost said excuse me.
I know.
It's no one here even working. Lazy.
Because you killed him, Caleb.
I did. They got rock stars. Oh no, that could be out. Well, purple dildo didn't save me. Unfortunately. Alright, y'all. Stay free, stay safe, stay armed. I hope you and the people are never harmed. We out this bitch. Remember, it's the angsty Zebra Predator on Twitch. Oh, yeah, we're on Twitch. Of course it is. Anyway, love y'all. Be easy. Peace.